Welcome to another exciting live chat with myself and me. No, I'm not schizophrenic. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Sorry, excuse my voice today. It's not, I've still not got past the thing. I have got tablets for my nose. But I have got some absolutely phenomenal news. I'm not sure if I want to actually put it on this live, but I can tell you some of I can sort of lead you to where I'm going, but then I can point, I want to do a video because otherwise someone else will nab the information that I've spent 40 years researching. And if you've looked at my other videos where I come across things and work it out myself, it'll be sad for other researchers to claim it's theirs when I've done it all myself, as I have with everything that I've done. And so far, touch wood, no one's debunked anything that I've said. So you're in for a treat a bit later on. I was just waiting for more people to join so I can give you some of that information. And hope you're all well. And so, as always, I will start off until someone asks me a question. And I'll start off with Egypt, because Egypt is absolutely fascinating. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but the Anunnaki, which were the alien race, actually talk about the whole of the Horus, Osiris and Set debacle, if that's the right word for it, where basically, if you know your history, where Osiris and Set had this massive feud, and Set ended up killing Osiris, chopping his body up. His wife Isis had to go and find it, and then impregnated herself with the remains of the you-know-what part, and had a child called Horus. Now, if you all know all of that, then you know that Horus ended up fighting Set. Now that's written 3 times. Hello, Pandera. How are you? Forgive my nose today. I still sound blocked, but I have got the tablets. Mr. Van Roh has wrote, my research goes now over 13 years. Greetings from Germany. Brilliant. Hopefully you'll hear what I'm going to say very soon. It is never before worked out, and it's something that I've done. And yeah, I've only just joined. I've only just started, Peach. 7:54. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's to do with Egypt. In fact, the actual information. I'm very, very proud, just as I am with Atlantis and all the other things, that I'm the only one that's worked out. And so I mean, it nows what I'm going to say later on. Nows 100%, in my opinion, that I'm trying not to give it away, that the Anunnaki not only were in Egypt, obviously, as well as other places. From my research, I have concluded that the Anunnaki had certain places for technology, and I'll leave it at that for now. But the information that I've researched concludes 100% in my opinion. So I'll leave that. Anyway, going back to the Set story, if you'll remember your history lessons at school, which they never bother teaching this kind of cool stuff. I don't know, did they teach you that? Osiris, Horus and that? Or is that something you've sort of learned over time or haven't even heard of? Anyway, we actually have a transcript or translation of ancient texts which talks about Marduk having children, and then them having children as Osiris, but they named them differently, ever so slightly different from Osiris. I think it's Oris or something like that. And Horus was Honra. So, but basically the story is exactly the same. So we know that the whole of the lineage from Ptah in Egypt is definitely, you can't have the Sumerians, which predate the Egyptians, saying the same story with the same 3-4 people, 5 people if you include the wife. You can't, and the location and Kem and the top part of Egypt and the bottom. But you can't have the whole of that in Sumerian talking about Anunnakis and then not say that that's genuinely true and forget that, but go with the Egyptian version. Now, the Egyptian version was written on the walls. I'm not going to take any lives today. Sorry, Hamdo. It's because I'm more excited about my actual I've found, which is fantastic again. Sorry if I sound big-headed, but when no one else has found what I found and concluded, it's pure logic that got me to the conclusion, and then obviously research and scientific evidence also backs it up. So that's why I'm proud of it, because it's done by logic to start with. Anyway. So we've got the evidence of the Anunnaki literally in Egypt, and of course that then will lead on to the thing that I'm trying to avoid telling you too much, but I'm very excited by it. But I do want to do a video of it, because otherwise people will say and nick my idea and stuff. Bobby's wrote, so yes, maybe, ... Sorry, Khaled, I'm not taking lives today. It's 8 o'clock, so I'll probably end up only doing an hour today. Here we go. Wait for it. Tog Rokata has wrote, 40 years should have been spent working. Don't you love these people? So I'm just going to block that person, only because they're obviously not interested in anything I'm saying, and I don't want to accidentally run across my videos and then posting some rubbish up there as well. So sorry. Oh, and look at the name, it's a bully. Block. JKN bully is the name. Justin wrote, do you think the Earth is flat? No. I put some I've put some videos up. I've spoken to flat earthers a few times now, and bless them, they point to Antarctica and they point to Admiral Byrd, and they point to various things, and of course I point out that the Admiral Byrd information that they've given is incorrect, and I educate them on actually what was said by Admiral Byrd. And do you know what they say after I educate them? I actually point, and I say the video's out there, it's not me, it's what Admiral Byrd said. So what they go by is Admiral Byrd, but they miss the most important information about the pole in the South Pole, and then they just assume that it means the pole itself, and therefore there's land in Antarctica or beyond land. Somehow they got beyond Antarctica, but it's beyond the pole in Antarctica. Anyway, so do you know what flat earthers say when I point that out? Do you think, I'll give you a couple of clues. They either say, wow, okay, I should go back and relook at that, I'm a bit of a numpty. Or do they say, no, you're wrong, I'm not going to look at it because I'm sticking with, following everyone else on YouTube? Or the third one, do they just ignore it and change the subject? Which one do you think they do? Yes, you're right. They ignore it and change the subject. So when you've got literally when you point out that they're errors, and obviously I've done pinned videos where I just ask a very simple question. You don't need maths or anything. And not one person still to this day. I mean, I've had some numpties write some baloney down, which is there. I don't block it, but not one person out of thousands and thousands, including flat earthers, have actually answered any of those questions. So, no, it's not flat. I mean, I've done 2 books. I've got 2 more questions to put in my globe book, but the flat earth book is complete, too easy to do, too easy to debunk flat earth. But the globe one, I'm trying to do 2 versions. One, trying to prove that it's a globe, because I like to challenge myself, and 2, I want to be able to answer flat earthers or anyone by fighting with my own arguments, but of course it's really difficult. TikTokers wrote, I learned from Drunvalo, and then a Polishy name. I don't know who that is, sorry. Bobby's wrote horoscope, as in, I don't know what that's referring to. I guess it's Horus, as in the son of Isis, not not the modern Isis, but the Egyptian pharaoh queen. Horus is the son. Yeah, so it's technically not Horus as in a horoscope or horoscope that I'm aware of. I mean, you could be onto something there. I've not pieced that together or not looked into that. User 75 has wrote Anunnaki, sweet guys. Technically, no, not so much. I've done a video. If you're interested, you can go and read it yourself. But if you're not, don't want to read it and you want to just listen to someone reading it out to you, it's on my Patreon page. It's free. You can go there, and it's called Translation Number 1, because I will be going through different translations. I'll be probably doing another one tomorrow. And that translation talks about Enki literally having relationships with his daughter, his granddaughter, his great-granddaughter, and another one, and they're very, very, one of them's young. I don't know how young, but they're young. So when you say Anunnaki, sweet guys, and he kind of forces himself on them, the way it's read. They pretty much don't have a choice. So not always sweet. Little Miss Monsters wrote, what do you think about the people when they report Bigfoot all the time, but professional hunters don't? I mean, that's a valid question. Now, there are hunters that have seen Bigfoot, and there are hunters that supposedly have shot Bigfoot and killed Bigfoot and wounded Bigfoot, different hunters over different times. But more recently, you could argue, I mean, I haven't been studying Bigfoot for the last year. I've studied Bigfoot before that, but I haven't studied Bigfoot for the last year simply because I've been going back through these old information that I've had before on TikToks, etc., just for you guys. So I don't know if there's anyone sort of out there that's seen a Bigfoot, but it's a fair point. Now, there was, I remember listening to Coast, and there was a hunter that was up in a box up in the trees, I guess a hunting box of some description, and he saw a Bigfoot, but he, for some reason or other, he didn't fire, because I don't think he wanted to kill it. He's not one of these hunters that would kill a Bigfoot, because I'm guessing there's laws in certain states, which there is, so I don't know whether that's to do with it or whether he just felt, anyway, he didn't kill it, but he did see it. Maybe he thought, well, if it didn't shoot it, that thing will come after him. That's probably more likely. But yeah, it's still a valid question. Now, hunters obviously go where deers are, etc., because obviously that's what they're after. Now, Bigfoots hunt deer at night, so the hunters would have to be out at night to late night, pitch black sometimes, depending where they are. So if hunters do that, I mean, there are hunters that have heard the calls and the knocks and stuff like that. And also, technically, if you believe what eyewitnesses have said, they say that Bigfoot is telepathic, so they know where you are, which would, if that's the case, they would know that someone's around with a gun. Don't go anywhere, because obviously that person's sitting there with a gun thinking, I'm going to be shooting a deer in a minute. So he probably can read his thoughts. So I'm just throwing that out there that that's a possibility. And obviously the other ones where people do see them and they get rocks thrown at them and stuff like that is because obviously those people have stumbled into somewhere, or the Bigfoots were on their way and didn't see these people, or they both ended up walking in the same place type thing. So there's probably lots of reasons why. Now, obviously, if you're a hunter, the last thing you've probably got is a night vision camera that has record facility on it, because you don't normally expect to record a deer at night. You just sort of shoot the deer. So again, you've got more chance, I think, of people every day. People walk in with their cameras and their dash cams, etc. Which obviously we do get people seeing the Bigfoots a lot. So yeah, it's a good question though. Tell you what, go to the top of the class for that. Panderas wrote to the ball person, is anybody forcing you to stay? Right, I've blocked him. Sorry, Pandera. Thank you, though. Mr. Van Rah has wrote, I think they're back because of the two sun phenomenon. Is that, or phantom? You wrote phantom. I don't know if that's supposed to be phenomenon. Yeah, I kind of heard something the other day about the sun, but the problem we've got is, now, if you believe we're supposed to be a binary star system, then we would have a second sun. Now, no normal amateur astronomer has ever seen, now, I have to caveat this in a second, has ever seen a second sun in our solar system, even if it is going round with Nibiru, which is what I heard back in the 80s, that the second sun is going round. Now, however, the Elish, which is a text that talk about how Earth was created, because of the Anunnaki writing that, knowing our history, that doesn't say that there's a second sun. And so when I was saying caveat, it's because supposedly Nibiru, so if the second sun is with Nibiru going round, and it's not a dead sun, e.g. dwarf star, which is what I'd heard back in the 80s, if it's not, and it's still a sun, then you could argue that the reason why people haven't seen it is because it's behind the sun. In other words, on its elliptical orbit back. I mean, that's their argument for why we haven't seen Nibiru. Now, obviously, Nibiru will probably be in the dark, and maybe, if it's far away, it'll probably be in the dark. So you'd need a very good telescope to sort of capture it. So I don't know. I certainly don't think there's two suns in our universe, but or in our solar system, should I say? But I don't think Nibiru would have a second sun that's still working if it does have a second sun at all. That's just my gut feeling. TikTokers wrote, have you read The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by that Drun Valio Meli something or other? I can't pronounce his name, sorry. No, I haven't. I'm just guessing it's probably to do with the elixir, the flower from the Anunnaki. Do tell me what roughly is in it, if I'm close to that. I'll be interested to know. Lizzie's wrote, good morning. Oh, hi. Good morning. I'm not sure where you're from. It's 8:10 in the evening here, but good morning to you. Chris Hurst has wrote, they had electric. They had found the biggest Tesla coils in Russia. Just saying. I'm guessing you're saying the mud flood, because obviously Anunnaki wasn't really in Russia. So I'm guessing you're on about the Tatarian Empire, and that because someone built some Tesla coils, suddenly there's an empire that everyone forgot about a couple of 100 years ago, all over the world, and no books survived this flood of mud that covered everything, all the buildings, etc. And when those people then show the images of the buildings that's flooded over, they actually show buildings that's carved into rock, and they add that and say, look, this was covered over by mud. And those of you know me, I don't like liars. Now, whether they're mistaken, but the problem is, you can't be mistaken. You can't just freaking put what you want out. Because I could just do that all day long. I mean, other people do. I can't do that. I have to go and double check what I'm doing and triple check it. That's why no one's sort of debunked me. I can't just put a picture out of something and assume that I'm right. I can't do that. So that's where the problem is with these electrical coils. And of course, soon after that, Tesla come up with the same idea of Tesla coils. So even if someone in Russia did create them, just because he didn't patent them, doesn't mean it was a advanced civilization. Now, obviously, the name Tataria has been around. I mean, the Mongolian Empire was called the Tatarian Empire back 500 years ago. So, yeah, just because someone finds something that, if it was, as I've said before, if it was a Starship Enterprise, then hey, hell yeah, it's a advanced civilization. If it's something that we ended up creating not so long after anyway, is it just someone that was slightly ahead of the game and built them, and lo and behold, we've now found them, and we attribute a whole society, civilization, empire. Get that in your head. Empire, a couple of 100 years ago, British Empire, everyone knew about. It was all over the world. You're telling me that we've all forgotten just from a couple of 100 years ago an advanced. Imagine the British Empire having advanced tech. Everyone would have been talking about it. People would have been trying to attack them for it. Certainly during the pirate era, where Spanish was against English and all this kind of stuff. So if they'd heard that we had, UK had technology, so I'm just throwing it out there that a couple of 100 years ago, people were in trading with Russia, etc. So if they traded with this Tatarian Empire, or got killed by the Tatarian Empire for going there, and not, even if they didn't, people would have wondered what's happened to them. But even if they did trade with them and then they came back, they would have probably said, to another country, hey, there's Tatarian Empire. But no, there's no evidence that there was an advanced race other than the name, really, in my opinion. User 75 is right. Is it true the Anunnaki corn and bucket image was found in South Africa? I don't know that particular image. Is it true the corn and bucket image was found in South Africa? I don't know which particular image you're on about. They were obviously in South Africa for a very long time, and they did have buildings there, etc. They were there for 200 and 300,000 years plus some. So we have to expect, if we believe that they were there, which I certainly do, we have to expect that there will be some remnants of some of their structures buried under the mud, and the reason for that would be because of the tsunami 10,000 years ago. So yeah, so I don't know the answer to that. I've not seen that particular picture, or if I have, no one said it was from South Africa, but it's possible there was images of Anunnaki then. Now the thing is, to be fair with you, it's a good question actually. To be fair with you, from my understanding of the Anunnaki, there would have been no reason for them to have drew themselves with wings, because the whole point of the wings was showing that they're actual Anunnaki compared to humans, because obviously, as we know, down the line, humans started carving images of themselves. So this was a way of differentiating themselves, and really humans only started carving themselves 5,000 years ago, give or take, maybe 6, maybe 7, but not 300,000 years ago. So I can't see the benefit of them carving things with wings back then, if that makes sense. Little Miss Monsters wrote, like locals will report dozens of alien Bigfoot sightings, but hunters with all the gear see nothing. Again, people have. Of course, they got no evidence because they're not sitting there with a camera; they're sitting there with a rifle. So there is people, like I say, I've heard people on Coast to Coast talking about it. Now, do hunters then do a TikTok video and say, "Hey, I've or a YouTube video and say, hey, last night I thought I saw a Bigfoot. Do they do that? Are they those type of people? Or is it the casual person that's, out walking his dog and the dog gets the neck twisted 360 degrees? So I'm guessing you're saying that there's no such thing as Bigfoot because obviously hunters don't see them. But when the dogs chase them, they get their necks twisted 360 degrees and by the Bigfoot up and down the whole of America. So, when the police turn up and the reports come in that the eyewitness saw the Bigfoot and their dog chased after the Bigfoot and it killed it, up and down America, it's not just one person going around breaking dogs' necks. So I would certainly say there's Bigfoot for sure. Sophia's wrote David Blaine is Jesus because he spent this is okay. That was all you said. David Blaine is Jesus. I'm guessing you're referring to the magician. So because he did spent a lot of time learning magic, why couldn't have Penn and Teller been the sons of God also? The ones that still the women, the separate ones from Jesus, the ones in the Bible that say that the sons of God took unto them the daughters of man. So I'm just throwing it out there that just because someone spent some time researching stuff and performing tricks, does that make him Jesus? I would say no, because he admits that he's learnt the tricks that he does, the illusions. He admits he does that, learns it, as opposed to having the ability to do those illusions without having to learn. So, yeah, no, I would say no. Chris has wrote mud floods. What do you know about this? I've looked into it and just nothing. I've even put a post up and I just said, can you just show me one bit of evidence? Just one, point to. I can point to Sumerian tablets. I can point to carvings of them. I can point to various things to do with the Anunnaki. A hell of a lot, hundreds and thousands of things to do with the Anunnaki, cylinder seals, etc. But when I asked for one bit of proof, and I did a video, you can go and look at it, look at the comments I got. Do you know what people done? They kept saying, and I said on the video, please don't send, I'm asking for evidence of mud flood. Please don't send me to a YouTube or a link. And guess what everyone does? Yes. They go, oh, look at Fred's, research. No, if you've watched Fred, you've got obviously one bit of information there that has to be valid. Otherwise, it's all just supposition and guessing. To be fair, is it? If you don't have the evidence, then it is, it's theories. So they're pointing me to people that have theories, because otherwise they would say, Fred has actually, thank you, Pandera, Fred has actually got, stone carving, or they've got the actual Tesla coil, or they've got an image, or they've got a photograph, or whatever it is that's proof. And guess what they've got? Nothing, because no one's got back to me and pointed out. They just keep pointing me to people on YouTube, and I don't want to sit and watch an hour of someone going, well, look at this map. It says Tataria on it. Thank you, Pandera. It's, because that's what they'll do. They'll these videos will just be, there's a Tesla coil found in they'll just try and piece it all together with, shoehorn it so it fits, instead of worrying about the fact that no one else ever remembered them. This massive empire that's technically advanced. They won't point that part out. They'll just try and go with, well, this map says Tataria. Russia's president, supposedly said, even though we can do deep fakes now, do you know how easy it is to knock up a deep fake? People don't seem to understand that. So you can just literally manipulate his head on video footage already. But of course, nowadays, people will believe what they, and of course it was in Russian, so this is where he supposedly said that he's going to talk about Tataria, which again was a place. Doesn't mean it was an advanced alien race or even a human race. So no, I still say no to the mud floods. Pandera as wrote, do you ever heard about Julia Hasdu? Thanks in advance. I don't know who Julia Hasdu is. I might have come across such person, but remembering the name, I do not know. Sorry. Alan has wrote, what's your take on the woman found in a craft by Apollo mission? Mona Lisa was her name they gave her. Yes, it was, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few different stories on things. I've heard on Coast to Coast this whistleblower that was saying that there was a third astronaut or an extra astronaut that was put onto one of the Apollo missions to go up to the moon and secretively and go inside a Wumma type craft. In other words, a cigar shaped rock that we had one pass by and slow down and change direction, and yet people doesn't, genuinely it did. So I don't know why that's not front page news, because in space you don't have something slow down and change direction. As they said in Independence Day, how do you know it's not a meteorite? And they said, well, it's slowing down, sir. But yeah, the point is, they supposedly went on this Wumma craft, and it was gutted. This is their version. It was gutted completely out. In other words, someone had been there before. They finally got to a room, and near the very end of the craft, there was some black goo in there. There was lights still powered. There was this Polynesian style woman, which is the one you're talking about, in there, and she was connected up by cables of some description. And then there was this power source that they believed was a power source, which was still going, and they believed obviously that it was thousands, hundreds, millions of years old. Anyway, they decided instead, I don't know, I can't remember if they said they took the power supply.
Email message. There is an email message.
Sorry about that. I can't remember if they said they took the power supply, but they took the girl and then decided to take pictures while she's on the craft. But just before he left, I don't know if you know this, the guy that supposedly was there that grabbed the girl, he came across a buggy of some description with a little grey on it, and the grey drove up to him, telepathically spoke to him, saying, what you're doing, etc., etc. And the guy said, can I take a picture of you? And the alien supposedly allowed him to take a picture of him. And that picture's supposedly on the internet. Now, I've looked at the picture, and, the thing that the guy said is that you can actually see him in the reflection of the eye of the grey alien. And of course, I've looked at it, and yeah, you can, but I also work with Photoshop, so that could, it can be done. So it's not, an inconceivable picture. What makes it interesting, the picture of the actual female, is that it's got these. It looks old, I'll give you that. Not old as in age, but the actual woman, if it's a model of some sort, in other words, silicon or whatever, they've done a very good job on it to give it that sort of off-world kind of feel, and they stuck, if it was fake, even if it's real, they've got these what look like small bones over the eyelids, over the eyes, glued of some description, and I think a couple over her mouth, which is really weird because obviously, you wouldn't live like that. You wouldn't have your mouth blocked off. So if it was real, then that would have to have been done after the person I say person, part android, because he seemed to believe that it was part android. That would have to have been done after, either as a ceremonial thing, which I doubt the race that had that big, long, mile-long craft really does ceremonial things on the actual craft and leaves the person there. I can't see that. So then you got to say, okay, if it's real, what was the benefit of putting those things and gluing them over the person's eye when they died? I don't know the answer to that, and it's an intriguing one, because obviously, if you're going to fake something, you probably wouldn't put these kind of bone things over the eyes and over the mouth. So it makes it, from my point of view, is like, well, if it's fake, it's a clever idea because it throws you off. So yeah, that's my take on it. I don't know whether or not it's true. I don't know whether the guy's telling the truth about the crashed or not, may have landed, but the craft that's on the moon is possible. I mean, the one in Antarctica, could that be another one? When we say it's a city-sized craft, could it have been another Awuma, which is basically a rock carved using some sort of tractor being carved out of either a meteorite or a planet, and then they go in one hole, they create one hole, and then they hollow it out, and they've got themselves a perfect spaceship there with no nuts and bolts, which makes so much sense if you've got the technology to do that. Yeah, so interesting. Trigo has wrote, what do you think of the Anunnaki? Do you think they're aliens or ethereal? Oh, no, they're aliens. Literally, we have the texts that describe them, describe their planet, describe them having relationships with us, having to work in the mines in South Africa, and how they're needing gold for their atmosphere, etc. So if they're ethereal, they really wouldn't need gold for their atmosphere. They wouldn't have they wouldn't have needed to create humans in their image back in 300,000 years ago in South Africa. So 110% they were flesh and blood. In fact, we've got some of their blood, Rh negative blood. So it all makes sense to me that they are flesh and blood as opposed to ethereal. Now, obviously, people will go, well, hang on a minute, the Bible used to talk about angels, but the angels were messengers, as you could watch my videos where I clearly point out the Hebrew term for angel is messenger, and the Anunnaki in their texts, that's not just translated by Sitchin, in their texts talk about messengers, which, I would never write messenger. If someone was, I'd call them a postman or something, whatever it is. But they used the word messenger, which is interesting, because so did the Hebrew when they translated the tablets, or translated from different sources from the original, used also the word messenger. But we've called it angel because we translated it, or someone translated it, and it's stuck. And now, for some reason or other, people don't want to know that the angels, messengers, come down on ships, and the archangels are pilots, and the Igi were the fallen angels. No one bothers looking into that, but that's what it is. So yeah, definitely not ethereal. Little Miss Monsters wrote, good thing about flat earthers is where they're coming because of the squeaky clown shoes. I have to be careful what I say in case there's a flat earther on listening, but yeah. Yeah. Anthony just wrote errors in the globe and flat earth. Well, I've been writing a book about the globe side of it. In other words, trying to prove that the globe isn't a globe. And I've got 34 questions, and to be honest, all of them can be answered. Whereas the flat earth book, I got 36 questions, and I can't answer any of them. So yeah, I know where you're saying errors, because obviously people show you pictures, etc. But there's a website out there that where Eric, what's his name, Debay, something Debay, Eric Debay, is it? something like that, who's sort of took it upon himself to be the head spokesman. Now, he had 100 points, and there's this website out there that literally breaks down those 100 points and answers them, more than satisfactory, in my opinion. Of course, my one question about Flat Earth, just one, I've got a few, but my own one question that I asked Flat Earthers, they can never answer it, whereas Eric's, or whatever his name is, DeBay's 100-odd questions about whether or not it's flat, a globe, all of those can be answered. So, yeah. Richards wrote, have you ever seen a ghost? No, I haven't. Wouldn't really want to be fair with you. I know there's people out there that obviously have, and people certainly caught them on camera. And we're going back. Don't forget, ghosts have been around, or spirits have been around since Sumerian times. So it's certainly not, they're in there. You watch my videos, you've probably seen that they actually talk about them in their tablets. So spirits have certainly been. So it's not a new phenomenon. So if it's not a new phenomenon, then and back then they could actually see the spirits. They would literally talk about them as if they're, thank you, Pantera. You don't have to, you don't have to. But literally they talk about seeing the spirit walking in the kitchen and stuff like that. So, and sometimes bad people that they buried, they put stones over them, over the coffins. Now, or where they buried, should I say, not necessarily coffins, but where they buried the people. And they put the stones over to stop spirits from coming up. So the ghosts, obviously if you go by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that say the ghosts or spirits or light energy beings, as they really should be called, technically that's what they are, but of course once they leave your body with you as in control of it for a period of time, then it's, I guess you could call it a ghost or a spirit. But the light energy beings have been around, if you go by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, since the dawn of our universe. So to have the Sumerians talking about spirits, if they are eternal, and we're still talking about them, and 100 years ago people were doing seances, etc. So they've been around a long time. Obviously the native Indians, hundreds of years ago, talked about spirits. So they, and the totem poles and all that kind of stuff is to do with spirits. So from a ghost point of view, or light energy beings point of view, they're definitely here, but I have not seen one. And a ghost, e.g. a person that's deceased, that is now in control of that light energy being, I've not seen one of them. And I don't really want to. Michaels wrote, do you believe that they went to the moon and have took this long to go back to the moon? So that's a good question. Go number 2 in the class. The reason why it's a good question, because it kind of follows on from the one earlier, if you was listening, about the Mona Lisa woman. Because I personally don't think the early Apollo missions went there. Now, later on Apollo missions, possibly. So if they did go there, so the whistleblower, I forgot to mention this, the whistleblower that took the picture of the alien, the little grey, the grey told them they shouldn't be on the moon. And so supposedly that's where we get the, we've been warned off, we're not allowed back on there. It's a tricky one. I know, from my research, I think we've been there with the TR3 and the TR3B. The Nazis, everything I've heard from whistleblowers and everything, yes, we're now on the moon. We've been on there for probably 50, 60 years, mining and doing whatever else. Obviously those craft, those anti-gravity craft that the military created, were after the Apollo mission, so that would make sense why the Apollo mission stopped, because why bother dealing with that when you can just send up? And of course, accidentally, someone might give the game away, on an Apollo mission and say something that they're not supposed to, because obviously when they get there they'll see. And that's what's happened in the past. Ham radio people have picked up transmissions from the secure channels from those missions, some of those missions, and obviously the most famous one is when one of the emissions, I can't remember which one it was, turns round and switches to. Well, at this point they didn't switch to the secure channel, but the first recording of it that people had recorded on their ham radios was Santa Claus is real. Santa Claus is real, which is a code word for aliens are real and up there. So I don't know whether the Apollos really landed down. I'm on the fence on that. Later on ones, certainly not the early ones, but we're definitely there now. Lizzie's wrote, when are we going to see the aliens in real life, please? We are probably not. There's, they do deals with the military. When I say the military, the secret military complex, they do deals with them, treaties, etc. And obviously our military is all part of the elites, and of course the elites will say, hell no, don't let normal people know about aliens, because then anti-gravity will be a thing and we wouldn't need to keep bumping off people where they create these anti-gravity machines, which they have done, and we would also lose petroleum. No one will need petrol, and they'll lose their control over the populace. I mean, look at Rishi Sunak right now. His father, so we've now got a new Prime Minister, his father in India actually runs one of the biggest mobile phone, or dare I say it, not mobile phone, but a credit score system just like China's got. So in other words, very soon Rishi Sunak, who also owned Moderna, I think it was, so he's a very rich person thanks to him telling us to take jabs. So there's a conflict of interest with that, but no one cared. And now there's a conflict of interest when he's saying he wants to go to digital currency, which is all part and parcel of his dad's company. Again, does anyone care? I care, but the government is allowing this to happen. I didn't vote for him, so we're never going to see aliens. Basically, is the answer to that. Not while there's nearly 9 billion of us. We will when there's 500 million. In other words, when the Great Reset happens. But of course, that's whether or not you believe that all the countries, or the majority of the major countries around the world, all suddenly come up with the idea of calling it Great Reset. They all did. Not all of them, but the majority of them on the main countries. Not we're not talking smaller countries, but so where they all get that sudden idea that a bit of COVID comes along and they're going to have a Great Reset, and they're still, this is the Great Reset. This is all part and parcel of it, But then for those reasons, because of the elites in charge, there is no way they want us to. Nick Ho has wrote prove gravity. So in order to prove gravity, we would need to be two things, in my opinion. One is we would need to know where the opposite of gravity would be. In other words, no gravity. So you have to say, well, is there such a thing as no gravity? Because if there's no gravity, if there's such a thing as no such a thing as no gravity, then all we've got is what we've got here on Earth. In other words, whatever we've got here on Earth, when we jump up and we go back down, and don't say density, because I've gone through things which I'll go through again, just for people that don't know anything about anything. So we have to look now, is there such a thing as zero gravity? Because obviously then we've got a comparison. Then we can say, well, not everything is gravity, is what we've got here on Earth. So you could say, well, in space. Now, of course, this person's going to say there's no such thing as space, aren't you? Because you probably believe that it's water up there, and that when the dome cracked at one point, it created the Great Flood. And yes, I've heard that. And I said, well, who patched it up? Move along, next question. Forget who patched that up while it was flooded. Yeah. So, okay. So let's even just pretend that there is water up in space, even though Halley's Comet would have stopped flying around in space because of the friction. So, Nicole, or Nico, you've got to answer that one first. Why is Halley's Comet able to go around every 70 odd years and not slow down in water? Because if you actually look at what a bullet does in water, it slows down quicker than you dropping a rock in water. It's really weird, but it does. So, of course, when you've got a comet with an ice towel, which obviously would have dissipated in the water, but hey, that's not, thousands of years ago, but let's not spoil a good little thing here. So, first of all, there has to be gravity. Otherwise, if it's water, Halley's Comet wouldn't go round. That's just, I'm going by your own definitions that you would have here on Earth. But let's just pretend that there's water up there. So how else can we see whether there's any way we can float around? And if we can float around, then there's two types. Then there's the gravity here on Earth, if you call it gravity. So there's a thing called the vomit comet, which is an aeroplane where it can fly and then drop, and then you are in zero gravity. You can spin around. Even though you're in the craft, you can spin around as if you've got zero gravity. Now, you could say, well, it's density, but the point is when that plane starts leveling out, that person's density is exactly the same as it was while he was spinning around. Don't say, no, it's different. Why is it different? Well, because the plane's flying and it's creating its own anti-gravity? Sounds like he's debunked us. Crap, run, everyone. Quick, delete him. But yeah, so basically when you've got two opposing, one where you can literally spin round, and don't say density, one where you can spin round weightlessness, and that's not even going by Halley's Comet, and one where we jump up and unfortunately we come straight back down. So one of those is whatever you want to call it, and we've called it gravity. And the other one is zero gravity. So when you say prove gravity, I think I've done it just by simple logic, really, by basing on two different versions. Because obviously, if you say that there's everything that's the same on Earth, so when you was on that plane, no matter what, you would not, if you jumped up, you would go back down to the bottom of the plane, but you don't, you float. And if you say, oh, well, that's because the plane's flying, and therefore we've even if the plane created that, there is still such a thing as zero gravity. So that answers your question. That means there's two. There's zero gravity and gravity. So yeah, that to me that proves gravity. Scrolling down, Vinch wrote, have you seen a spooky ghost? I've not seen any, thank you. I'm so glad I haven't, really. I feel so, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I really don't want to see one. Chaos wrote, I have, believe it or not, damn scariest thing I've ever seen. That's why I don't want to see one, Chaos. Yeah, that would, I'm guessing it was at night, because generally you can only see them at night because they struggle during the day because of the sun and the light frequency that has. Little Miss Monsters wrote, some hunters will just sit on a hill and scream, hear a quack, and then say, dude, that was a squatch. They could possibly do that, yeah. And again, normal people could probably get mixed up and think that they hear something and call it a Bigfoot. So I'm guessing you're still on the camp that there's no Bigfoot. So if you could just answer one little question, simple question: who goes around and breaks the dogs' necks, and then the police, get called and they genuinely take reports of a Bigfoot sighting, and their dog's neck, the person's dog's neck's been twisted 360 degrees. Up and down, so not one, hundreds of people have said this. So if you could just tell me who goes round up and down, forests, etc., pretends to be a Bigfoot, unless it's the owners. And if you can tell, if you tell me the owners are the ones that go around breaking breaking dogs' necks, then why aren't people doing it in other areas? Why would they do it to their own anyway? Yeah. So if you just answer who breaks their necks, that would be great. If you can't, then maybe it's Bigfoot, like the people that have seen him and see the dog run after. Patrick's wrote Tic Tac declassified, but can't be alien because I'd taken years to travel. It would take years to travel, and then with a laughing face. Oh, Patrick, really, 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 really. 200 years ago, Patrick, there was no such thing as an aeroplane. Please, Patrick, still be listening. 200 years ago, no such thing as an aeroplane. So if someone said you can go to, wait for it, Patrick, you guess what I'm saying, from New York to London in 3 hours, I think it was 3 hours, 50 minutes, Concorde. If someone said to you 200 years ago, right now, pretend you're 200 years ago, someone said you can get to, on a plane to New York from London, 3.5 hours, you would say, what would you say, Patrick? Would you say, oh, to be sure? Or what would you say? No, you'd say what you're saying now because you're obviously in that mindset. You'd say, never going to happen because they can't travel that fast. You would, because you've literally just said that. It would take them years to travel. So that was for the aliens. But so you would say, no, it would take weeks and weeks and weeks because the distance on, even by a bird, you'd probably assume that an aeroplane would fly probably just a tad faster than a bird, or as fast as a horse maybe running 35 miles an hour. You wouldn't know because there's no aeroplanes. So you wouldn't imagine it flying like freaking supersonic, would you? Of course you wouldn't. So Patrick, please don't equate an alien race that has been around probably a million years more than us. Please don't do that. That is a numpty thing to do, really, to assume that they're using the same technology as us and that their fossil fuels are the same as our fossil fuels. There's different types of fossil fuels, don't you? You know that. So you're assuming that whatever their propulsion system has to be propellant based, is what you're saying. Because we've got that now. But 200 years ago, we didn't have propellant based aeroplanes or rockets. So 200 years ago, you'd say, don't know, doubt it. You see, come on, Patrick, you see what I'm saying? So in 100 years, do you think, Patrick, that we're going to get to New York quicker than we do now on, a jumbo jet? In 100 years, do you think we're going to have faster airplanes? I mean, they're still building new and new. In fact, they're doing a new Concorde. I don't know if you've heard about that. So do you think we're going to get there quicker? Yes, you do, don't you? I'm not calling you a numpty, but you'd be a numpty to think that we're suddenly going to stop. We've only, what we've achieved in the last 100 years in flight is amazing. So we're only going to carry on. So let's be honest, Patrick. The technology that aliens use is not a propellant from possibly a million years advanced from us. And even 500 years from now, are we going to be using propellants? Probably not. We'll probably be using... there's various techniques they've got now to push along. I mean, obviously, anti-gravity would be the key. And John Hutchinson's already proved there's such a thing as anti-gravity. So go look him up. So when you put your little laughing face as if to say, no alien race is going to be able to use rockets and petrol and aviation fuel and all this kind of stuff, that is kind of a numpty thing to say. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but it is really. Panderas wrote, did they found extraterrestrial in the hair of Bigfoot? So they found, there's many many researchers have sent in hair samples to different places. Many, you can just, listen to Coast to Coast for a start, but you can go to the Bigfoot Hunters, the ones that did the TV show, they've sent in hair. So many people actually do look for Bigfoot specifically. And generally what you find is human DNA, which is really generic DNA because fruit flies, etc. have got it. And a large quantity, the highest I'd heard is 90% unknown. We've got literally every hairy species, monkeys, apes, etc., all catalogued in. So other than it being something like Gigantopithecus, which obviously we wouldn't have its DNA, even though it's on a different continent. But yeah, 90% on one particular research group that did the mitochondrial DNA from the hair. Now, when you say did they find extraterrestrial, obviously they can't say extraterrestrial. All they can say is they don't know where that other part comes from. So they obviously, it would be an assumption, but they can't say it for sure because obviously they would need to know that Bigfoot is an alien race and probably get a sample from one that is not on Earth to be able to then say it's an extraterrestrial, if that makes sense. Little Monsters wrote, by the way, when I say hunters, I mean Bigfoot Pacific hunters rather than regular game hunters. Well, if you've watched the Bigfoot hunting TV series, some of those people on there, not just the eyewitnesses, obviously, that they go and interview, but the actual people, Bobo, I think his name is, Bob, something like that, I can't remember his name, big guy. I think he'd seen the Bigfoot. The other guy, but basically they'd seen, which is why they got into looking into Bigfoot. So when you say Bigfoot researchers haven't seen Bigfoot, a lot of them have, and a lot of them actually have gone into researching Bigfoot just because they can't see him again. When you watch those programs, they only stay out one night and they hope that, Bigfoot's in the wilderness, 100 miles, they're hoping 1,000 miles, they're hoping that a Bigfoot's going to be passing relatively near them to be able to capture them again on film. So yeah, the people researchers definitely do see them, or they say they see them anyway. Chaos has wrote, these creatures have a consciousness beyond what we could understand. Not sure whether whether that's referring to Bigfoot or not. Dre O'Cares wrote true story. Again, I'm not sure what I was talking about at that point. I'm probably behind on the messages. It's Little Miss Monsters wrote, do you ever worry about having confirmation bias? No, if you've listened to me today, you see that I counter-argue with myself. I am the last person you'll ever catch with I'm writing a book about Globe, trying to prove that the Earth's flat. Even though I believe it's flat, I'm actually writing. So I will always counter-argue myself because if, as you say, which basically you're insinuating that I do have confirmation bias, you are, because the way you wrote it. So look, I'll read it out. Do you ever worry about having confirmation bias? In other words, I do. That's what you're saying I do. If I did that, out of my 900 videos, people would have said, you're wrong. Really, they would have. If I'd got things wrong and I'm only going by my own confirmation bias, that means there's a second side to it, isn't there? Because obviously I'm sticking to this, I'm only researching, what you're saying is I'm only researching one side of things. But unfortunately, any one of my regulars will tell you, even on live chats, I say, well, you could argue, and I think of it from the other perspective, and that's what I'm very good at, in my opinion, which is why no one has come along and said, you're wrong. Well, I've had people say you're wrong, and I say, okay, no problem at all, show me what I'm wrong on, but they never come back because they can't. So, yeah, so I have no problems about confirmation bias because I will argue with myself. I am very good at that. That's why people have said to me over the years, you should have been a lawyer, because I will look at every angle very quickly in my head, and that includes the other side as well. So, no, I've got no problems at all. I'm probably one of the only few researchers that maybe do that. I don't know. Patrick wrote, pretty sure we could understand. I'm so sorry. I don't know what time it was when you wrote that. I don't know what that one's referring to. Dre Oko's wrote Bigfoot. I do like a full question, because obviously if you might be asking, do Bigfoot bury the dead? Do Bigfoots travel in packs? I don't know how much you know. You could be saying, was Bigfoot responsible for the Dyatlov Pass incident? I just don't know how much you know about Bigfoot, so I don't want to go through everything just to cover it. So that, so if you've got any questions, do tell me about. Sorry, the questions. Roberts wrote, somebody tell me about this mud flood. So supposedly, I mean, you can go and look it up. Other people might say slightly different, which is, again, the same problem we have with flat earthers. With a flat earther, I say, also there's it's a disc, and they say, no, you're looking at the pictures on the internet. And I'm like, well, what shape is it? We don't really know. So it could be round. No, it's not round. So, yeah. So the same goes with the mud flood. You'll find people saying that the flood happened in New York, and around the world, and even Russia at the same time, and then suddenly everyone's memory, because people still survived, otherwise if everyone died, we wouldn't be here. So there was people around that probably have heard of, because I mean, you can't have a selective mud flood that literally wiped out everyone that knew of the empire, and just, it just doesn't make sense to me. So this is supposed to be an advanced empire because someone found some Tesla coils. That was it. That's the extent of it. And I've asked for proof, but of course you don't get anything other than someone invented Tesla coils that probably didn't patent it here in the UK or the Americas. That's it. That's as far as I get. And of course they show pictures of carved rocks, buildings carved into rock, and I know they're carved into rock as a fact. Anyway, Mr. Van Ross wrote, the documentation Thrive speak about the flower. Don't know what that is. Sorry. Just scrolling down. User 75 wrote, when did the Anunnaki first arrive, and what's the evidence to support this? Well, okay, first thing, they arrived 450,000 years ago, and the evidence to support that is actually stone tablets that was carved in the language of Sumerian, which we assume is Sumerian language, but really it's the Anunnaki language that taught the Sumerians the language. So how can we prove that the Anunnaki, with their carvings and their buildings that we still can't do to this day, were actually here from another planet? First of all, they talk about it in these tablets. So the tablets, beautiful. The first writing ever on this planet is a Sumerian language that's fully formed. Not half of it, not even scribbles, nothing to get to that sudden point. It's fully realized with dictionaries and everything. And you could say, well, maybe one person done that. There's hundreds of thousands of tablets. Hundreds of thousands, probably millions, but hundreds of thousands of tablets. 130,000 is in the British Museum alone. Many of them talk about Enki and Enlil, which are the princes from Nibiru. But you could just say, okay, why do they have to come from another planet? Well, then you've got to then say, okay, well, who was their father? And it was Anu. Okay, does the text talk about Anu? Yes, it does. So let's still forget the planet. So now we've got King Anu that suddenly appeared from nowhere. Nothing before King Anu. So we've got King Anu, we've got advanced technology, we've got descriptions of them being 8 to 12 foot tall, pale skin, blue eyes. We've got in the tablets things that they talk about in space that we found out, some of them 200 years later after finding the tablets. So whoever wrote those tablets thousands of years ago either had a damn good telescope that we haven't even got now. Hubble probably is the closest they would have needed down here on Earth to see what they was talking about. So either they guessed, or the Anunnaki were here from another planet, or they had a massive telescope. Now, I know which one I'll go with. The fact that everything else is here, the buildings that we can't recreate, the carvings of them, and wait for it, and the tablets that actually say that they're going to create humans in their image. We've got the tablets. So, if that isn't evidence, I don't know what isn't. What is. So, yeah. Craig has wrote, most of YouTube is AI written text-to-speech image generated to create content and ad revenue. Most of YouTube is AI written. You mean... I'm guessing you mean people that do videos and they just literally type in something. I know you can do that now. Obviously, back in the day, 2004, when YouTube first started, that there wasn't the AI around to do that. So obviously, you've then got how many years of YouTube videos on there before we got to AI? So 2004. Let's just even say 10 years. So you've still got 10 years of videos on there. So when you say most of YouTube, I would probably say no to that, just from the logic of how many videos were already uploaded in the first 10 years, and then obviously the cat videos and everything else, they're not using AI. So it would only be people. So let's be honest, there's only a handful of people using AI. And even then, it would obviously have to be factual information. Otherwise, it's just someone telling a story, and those would probably not get many followers. So it'd have to be factual people like myself that would use AI. And even when I use AI a lot for different things. And if I was to write something to do with AI, it would be a very generic thing. So in some of these AI websites, you can actually just type in Bigfoot, Bigfoot history, for example, and the AI will bring it all up. Now, people can do that, but I wouldn't certainly say most of YouTube is AI, because I watch a lot of YouTube for different things, and obviously there's real people on there talking. So yeah, no, I probably wouldn't say most. I'd say a handful, really. Don't yet meet me has wrote, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Good evening from my point of view. How are you? Eric's wrote, hey, have you ever seen those videos of singing sirens in the ocean? Do you mean the one where the guy's on the back of this, or on this trawler type ship, if I remember correctly? Is that the one you're referring to? Where it's just him out in the back, and no matter how many times the sirens are singing out in there, he's there with his camera, and instead of grabbing the guy that we saw in the background and saying, hey, look, do you see that as well? He doesn't do that. Now you could say, well, maybe the other person doesn't speak English, but maybe he's on a Russian ship or something, or the foreign ship. But it's happened to him a few times. So by now, if it happened to me a few times, I would have grabbed the nearest person again for validation. That's just the way I am. So, if that's the one you're referring to, I looked at the videos and I looked very, very carefully at the one that looks like supposedly a swimming creature of some description, e.g. mermaid is what they're going with. I've looked at that and I will give my conclusion, bearing in mind I also do CGI. I will say that's CGI. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that this particular guy gets, there's millions of ships out there, millions. So, and everyone's got a camera phone nowadays, and we do get video footage of Bigfoot, whether or not people believe it, but we do get video of Bigfoot. This seems to be the only guy that seems to manage to get not only the sounds over different days, not consecutive days, but different times he's gone out there. This is the only guy that seems to get glimpses of mermaids swimming and the sirens calling. I know he then, if you watch the video, he's then got this, what he believes is a tailbone of the fish or mermaid, and he's taken it somewhere. But if you know anything about fish, you wouldn't have a big solid lump of bone for the end part of the tail. It just doesn't work like that. Certainly not for a mermaid, I would have said, because it would have been too heavy. If you ever cut a fish open, you don't have big, huge bones like that, massive bone. It's like a moose bone type of thing. Back of a moose is what it looked like to me. And of course, it's again just him that's got this moose bone. So no, I would probably in my own. I know he's got millions of followers, I think, and he's very charismatic, etc. But I just can't see it that he's telling the truth. So if that's the same one you're referring to, from my years of experience of everything, I would say no. Dazzles wrote, "Do you believe in God? You mean an almighty being?" No, I don't. Do I believe in the gods that the Bible talks about? And I do mean plural, because obviously when people change it from the Old Testament and change it to him and instead of them, you got to ask yourself, why did humans do that? Was, literally, and the translation of Elohim is plural, so why would we change it? Obviously, we changed it because we don't want people to know that there was Anunnaki. So when you ask me, do I believe in God? I believe in the Anunnaki, thank you, Pandera, the Anunnaki, who we've got tablets and and even their blood. I believe in them 100%. We still can't create their buildings to this day. I mean, I was looking I was researching today on their buildings, which will lead me in a second to the conclusion that I've come to, and I'll tell you that in a sec. So no, there's no point in, and obviously religion is just man-made, so there's no point in doing that. June has wrote, my dad dying, then some random person spoke to me and said, that's how you make extra money. I woke up. Not sorry, June. I don't recall anything before that from you, so I'm not sure how that. I'm a bit confused. Was it a dream? I guess. My dad drying. I'm guessing that's dying. I'm sorry. I don't. And then he carries on. And then thought of getting life insurance for my dad. It's crazy. I told my dad to stop riding his motorcycle. Oh right, okay. So he was dreaming your dad was dying, and then a voice said, make money, I guess, through insurance. The problem with insurance, my mum's got life insurance, and wait for it, you're going to kill yourselves when you hear this. My mum's got life insurance and she's been paying into it since the late 60s. And we added it up. She should have got, she should have been paying in about, she should be claiming about £24,000 from the money that she was putting in. She was only putting small amounts in. Do you know how much they're going to give her? £3,000. £3,000. I said to her, you would have been better off putting that money in a freaking bank. So she's spent. Now her argument was, well, if I died a year after, I would have got the £3,000. Back in the 60s, that was a lot of money. So that's her argument, that if she died earlier, then it's all fine and dandy. But so I'm just, thank you, Winnie. So I'm just throwing it out there about life insurance. If you're going to put in and you stay a lot longer, you lose money, basically. So I guess it depends on how old you are and whether you think you've got conditions or not. Mr. Tyler's wrote, no one's speed of the moon. Mr. Tyler wrote, no one's speed of the moon. I'm just going to have a drink while I try and figure out what that means. No one's speed of the moon. I don't know what that means, I'm sorry. Dazzles wrote, have you ever had night terror? Believe me, it changed me changed me. I'll answer your question first, and then I'll ask you a question. Night terror, no. I had nightmares back in the day, but I managed to sort that out. I have dreams, but not nightmares or terrors anymore. I'm guessing your night terror obviously petrifies you and possibly paralyzes you, maybe. Be interested to know what kind of terror that would be. If you can let me know. Don't Yeet Me has wrote, have you seen the fake NASA footage? The proof for me was the girl's hair spiked and gelled up. Tell you what, watch my videos. One of us, and I'm not you, but one of us compared to, in other words, me or the numpties on the internet, which you've watched, one of us has done a little bit more research and used logic. And the reason why I can tell you that, yes, they fake stuff up on the space station now. They do. And they fake certain shots, live shots, etc. of the Earth. They fake that. However, they didn't always used to do that. And the reason why they did stop doing it is because back in the day, there used to be UFOs flying around, and they used to have to cut the feeds. So where you've gone along with the YouTubers and thought, yo, NASA's always lied and always had CGI and always this and always that. No. This is the difference between me and them. No. We still have the footage on YouTube of where they used to have the live streams, and UFOs, not ice particles, they would change direction and all sorts of stuff. UFOs either entering the Earth's atmosphere, hovering around, coming out of Earth. Have you seen the one where, I don't know, probably thousands of UFOs all suddenly leave Earth's? If you haven't, try and find that video. I should have put a video on that. It's amazing. Basically, it was captured live stream, and suddenly thousands of these lights come up from the sky, from the Earth, all over the Earth. It is something like of a freaking. In other words, they just left. Amazing footage. So next time you talk to or see one of those YouTube videos where it shows, or TikTok videos where it shows they faked something, so yeah, no problem. But they didn't always fake, and they had to cut the live feeds. And of course, eventually, you tell enough people, they might start realising that there's more to it than just watching a fake video nowadays. Oh, am I the only one, really? That June has wrote to Dazzle, I get sleep paralysis. It's crazier when I sleep sitting down. Not sure why, but I'm trying to find the next part of that. Oh, I can't find it. Sorry, I can't find the next part of that. Don't Yeet Me's wrote they're hiding something. Yes, alien craft flying around. All you have to do is just think. Instead of just watching YouTube going, oh, they're right. Just think, okay, use logic. Well, hang on a minute. Did they always have CGI? Well, probably not. So did they always do live streams? Well, actually, since the 90s, they were doing live streams and people recorded it. So was that CGI? If we didn't have CGI back in the 90s for them to do, and even if they did have CGI, why would they put fake UFOs in there and then cut the live stream? So maybe have a think before you just follow something. And that goes for everyone. I won't, I'll look at it from every single possible angle. Donna's wrote, hi Donna, hope you sleep well. There's people talking about night terrors. Hopefully you're sleeping well. Have you ever talked about reported cases of frogs, toads being found alive in embedded rocks? Thank you whoever just gave me that. I just saw it. I've never found alive in embedded rocks. I've never come across that. That's interesting because obviously, a frog, I don't know how long they would survive without food and water, and moisture. I don't know if they need moisture, but so if they were in rock, this is how my brain, if they were in rock, then, let's hypothetically say a week. So for a rock to have solidified in a week, I mean, we've not heard of that, but we have heard that there's people out there that have said that rocks can petrify or solidify and turn into rocks in 80 years. Certain rocks and certain conditions can do that, supposedly. Now, a week, I've never heard of that, so I would be very interested to see that. Yeah, I mean, I'd be. I don't know whether there's videos of it or not. Yeah, I'd interesting. I've not heard that one before. Thank you, Donna. If you got any links or anything, do feel free to send me that. Don't Yeet has wrote to Donna, the Aboriginal people crossed the desert looking for Pac-Man frogs in hibernation. Alice has wrote, from our understanding of things, a comet wouldn't move. But how do you know we are right? From our understanding, I'm guessing that's flat Earth or us. A comet wouldn't move. Well, if there's zero gravity in space, or heaven as the original texts were translated into, if there's zero gravity and something bashes into something else, then it will probably carry on floating or speeding or moving because there's nothing else to stop it. That would probably carry on either in an orbit or at its own orbit that it created by going off in that direction. So when you say from our understanding of things, a comet wouldn't move. In the Sumerian text, it talks about comets flying over with a 30-mile tow in heaven. But of course, we know it's not heaven; it's space. So even then, they're talking about celestial bodies flying around in space. So for them to have said that it's moving, and of course we get meteorites as well, so we would have to say that they move as well. So a meteorite is when it enters Earth's atmosphere, and an asteroid is when it's outside of Earth's atmosphere. So they must be flying around. So yeah, I can't see how you say they wouldn't move, because every logical thing says absolutely they would move. Lizzie's wrote, they say they're stopping money. Why would people want to go to work? Then causes the government will be... I'm trying to read the next bit of that. The government will be paying our bills. So the way it's going to work, unfortunately, is yes, they will end up paying our bills, Bottom line, the very bottom line is that they're trying to depopulate the planet by a lot. But for now, they've gone to the conclusion that when it becomes a cashless society, if they're paying you your wages, they tell you what to do. So it's like a boss. So if you're sitting at home and you want to, go and protest, they will block your money. It's as simple as that, because it was all done by this new credit scoring system. If they put us in lockdown, they can, with the new system they're going to have, they can actually stop you from going any further than a mile away to spend your money. You could go a mile and a half, try and buy something, and it will say, sorry, you're not allowed to buy it. So they're going to have full control over your life, just like China does, but even worse. And that's what's coming. People can't see it, but that is exactly what's coming. So criminals, you first think, well, criminals, they're not going to be able to do criminal dealings because cash won't be around anymore. Fine. But when the government wants you to do something, imagine you do speeding accidentally and your car's all connected in the future, they will just limit your car or reduce you to buying only £10 worth of petrol. They can do anything they want, and they will. You think your government's on our side? Rishi Sunak, who part owned, I think it's Moderna, one of the two in Britain. You go and look it up. And he was telling us to get the you-know-what in the arm. Hey, everybody, I'm going to make billions out of you lot. Go and get it. Bill Gates funded Pfizer, $40 billion company in 2019. $40 billion profit in 2019. And Bill Gates is involved with 2 of the 4 companies that were allowed to produce this, you-know-what, in your arm. Really? And he's also set up a depopulation foundation in 2009 with Linda. Really? And he's saying, yeah, come on. Sorry. Donna's wrote, the reports are of no visible openings to these rocks where living frogs and toads are found. That's interesting. I would love to see a video on it, because obviously it was just verbal. Then I could sort of say, well, I've seen a mermaid or a unicorn, but I'd like to see more on that. Thank you, Donna. Don't Yeet has wrote to Donna, have a genetic antifreeze creating surrounding ice crystals, freezing doesn't damage the cell. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you know your stuff on that. Yeah, just next time think outside the box on the NASA line all the time. But other than that, it sounds like you know some stuff. Lizzie's wrote, the government will be paying. You'll be able to the remaining part of that. Don't Jeeters wrote to Donna, they are finding them somewhere cold, ? Or, sorry, are they? Pandera has wrote, when you are saying alien, don't come back, which race are you referring to as, for example, Bigfoot? We're not going to see any of them while we're around. Bigfoots have been seen, or when I say we're not going to see them, as a general population, they're not going to introduce themselves. We're never going to get that. Certainly not while we're 9 billion. When we're down to 500 million, where our elites will be literally in control of the lives of those poor 500 million, they will be told about UFOs. I mean, the logical thing, I don't know this for sure, but if we've got technologies that we now want to have as a great reset and get rid of our old technologies, you would need to tell all the people that's left how to use this new technology and how to enhance it and how to make it work and how to implement it in our system, etc. So, we're not going to see them per se, and that's any aliens, I don't think, in my opinion. Bigfoot, you wrote, is Bigfoot an alien race too? Right, yeah. Everything that I've heard leads me to believe he's a Bigfoot, is an alien race, and those ones that are here are stuck here because they their ancestors crashed on a prison ship, supposedly at least 10,000 years ago, somewhere in America. My guess would be, because there's more of them in America than there are in Russia, so they probably bred and spread across to Russia when the land wasn't flooded over. Dazzles wrote, was the Devil's Trowel a tree? I don't know the answer to that, but my gut feeling is no. There's only one of them in that area, which then you've got to say, well, why is there only one? Then you've got to say who went up 50 foot, 50 stories is fucking massive. Who went up 50 stories and cut it down? Then you could say, well, okay, it was a giant, which would have had to have been a couple of miles high to be able to cut a tree down from that position. So everything leads me just from conclusions to think, no, if they've got the technology to go up and cut it flat 50 stories up, whoever did it, they probably would have had the technology to cut it lower if it was humans. If they can just slice straight across, if it was humans, they probably would have done it lower instead of having to climb up 50 stories on the side of this 10-mile high tree, for example, and then hang there and try and use whatever tools they had back then. So I can't see it, really. I know people say it's sort of volcanic and this and that, and I can understand why people say it's a tree, because it kind of looks like a tree stump. But if you look at a volcano, I know a volcano is massive, obviously, but the outer shape of it, condense that down to a bit smaller. In other words, a smaller pocket of magma coming up. Would you have got that? Yes. Would the magma, let's just think it was magma, if it had a hole at the top and then it just settled and hardened at the top, would you get a flat surface? More than likely. So could it have been that? Possibly. Soul Eaters wrote, wild people also exist in the wild from time to time. They base some psychology on it. Yeah, I've seen some stories. That's a good point. I've seen some stories of children that have gone out into the wilderness, and I mean proper wilderness in, where was it? Paraguay and places like that. And the child had lived with wolves, or child had lived with certain other animals for 10 years of its life, and it's, even though the kid was young enough to walk, by the time they found the kid, obviously they weren't looking for him anymore, but by the time they found the kid was walking on all fours and howling and whatever else. So there's many stories of that type of thing, and in fact that one particular girl that did that had to get re-educated back at school and learn to walk again. It was, even though she could speak when she was younger, I think she was about 4 when she went missing, she had to literally learn everything again. So 10 years of not being with humans can do that. Obviously, can make you forget to talk, which is interesting. Sean G has wrote, what's your thoughts on prayer? Do you believe our creators listen and communicate with us? So our creators are the Anunnaki. We've got tablets. We've got translation of the tablets that are in the British Museum of an alien race telling us, telling the story. And I mean proper story, not just a story, because you don't have the first written language and make up stories about Enlil and Enki and then have hundreds of thousands of these tablets up and down the whole of the Middle East talking about the same people. It just, you don't do that. There's no stories ever been done like that. That means everyone that's learned to scribe would be talking, been told. No, so our creators are the Anunnaki. Literally, they say they created 7 humans first, and they are 6 or 7, and they failed on each one of those, blind and various disabilities, and eventually they got one right. Sorry, I was working today hard. So yeah, when you say, so going to prayer I think is to do with manifestation, which spirits use, and there seems to be some consensus that, in Buddhism and all sorts of different religions, there seems to be some consensus that everything is connected, a bit like the Force, I guess, Star Wars. And with that, when you pray as a collective, you have more influence over manifestation, such as Slender Man. If you know the story of Slender Man, was done because of people continuously thinking of Slender Man, and then suddenly he appears from nothing. Mediums and spiritualists do say that on the other side, they use manifestation to create whatever they need to create if they haven't, got it there, which I don't know what. I mean, technically, there is here, so they could be sitting on your chair right now. But if they wanted to play football, they would manifest their own ball as opposed to kicking about one of our balls. So prayer, I think, is a different thing. Praying to the Anunnaki, I'm never going to do that. There's no point. Praying to an almighty being, we've got zero evidence, and forget the Bible, because the Bible, we've got the original tablets that the Bible talk about, so we know the Bible's talking about the Anunnaki. So there's the Anunnaki talks about creator of everything, but that could just be, people say it could be a computer, it could be a simulation, could be anything. So I'm certainly not going to pray to a computer or anything like that. So for me, I don't pray because there's no point praying. And obviously, look at the people in World War II. Millions probably prayed, and nothing happened. Nothing. World War One, nothing happened. This prayer doesn't work. I know people will say, well, I'm now, I've got a better job, better this and better that, and that boils down to the luck side of things. And there's a whole nother story on producing your own manifestations from luck. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But yeah, no, I don't pray. Soul has wrote, but yeah, just like the ocean, I very much doubt our full knowledge of all of the earth. Yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't. Sorry, then he carried on. People still get lost in the Grand Canyon, a very notable place. Yeah, obviously we don't know everything about our planet. I don't. Hopefully, I've never said we do know everything about our planet. We certainly don't. Cyril's wrote teleporting by then. I'm guessing that was when the person said, forgive me if I'm wrong, there's no way they would be able to get here using rocket fuel from another star system. So I'm guessing you're saying teleportation. Well, there is portals. NASA's admitted there's portals. Aliens have admitted there are portals. And even some researchers believe there's portals, such as on Skinwalker Ranch. So, as a teleportation, would that come under? Probably not. But a wormhole, yes. Portal, yes. 3 cards wrote, what do you feel about the climate change with the recent earthquakes? Certainly, what we're pumping into the sky and having acid rain, that's a fact. That's, you just look at your car after you've cleaned it and it rains, and then you have this acidy. So we're, that's not good for our planet. So from that point of view, if we continue, our planet will end up with a different ecosystem to what it's got now, and will we still be able to survive here? I don't know the answer to that, but I certainly think we're not doing it any favours. Just look at the oceans and everything, the pollution, and next time when you talk about climate change, next time you pour bleach down your toilet, think about where that bleach is going to go. We're going to end up drinking it. It's going to go in our oceans, in our lakes, and then that goes back up into the sky as rain. And obviously you've got ozone layer with aerosols and things like that. I don't think anyone should be able to say, no, we're doing good for the planet. we're not doing great. Yes, there might have been the planet may have cycles where it, either spins on its axis, or we have climate issues, where it goes ultra cold, and the Anunnaki talk about that. They actually talk about periods of cold. I think 2 or 3 periods of absolutely freezing in their areas, South Africa and Mesopotamia. So we know that there is, just from their records, that there is such a thing as a climate change. But I certainly think, certainly in the UK, our government or MI6 or someone has manipulated some of these protesters, and I say some because some of these people are crisis actors. And if you don't know what that is, that's another kettle of fish. But I think what their plan is these protesters here in the UK, where they're throwing paint over or whatever over pictures and sitting in the roads, etc. I'm just thinking ahead. They will then put a law down which will stop certain protesters. So when we come to protest about the next lot of what in your arm, we'll be disbanded there and then. We won't be allowed to do it. So they've done this many a times before. So this isn't the first time they've done basically a false flag event. Now, obviously, there's people out there that joined with these. What was the other one? There was a protest about, was it heating in old people's homes? There's a little bit more things to worry about than putting. I'm not. Trust me, my mum's old, so I understand. Keeping the Insulation Britain, I think it was called. Seriously, yes, that's an important thing. But the more and more of these we get, where they're blocking off roads and causing problems, I think the government's partly, or some secret part of the government is secretly doing some of these, in other words, allowing this to happen. Instead of kicking them off the road, they're allowing this to happen so that at one point or another, when there's a real problem, e.g. an ambulance can't get past, they will then say, right, we're going to pass a law from now on. And that's how liberty's gone, because of the protesters, because of the people. So I think we're not doing great for the planet. I think there will be earthquakes. I think there always was earthquakes. If you look at Greece, they built the what's it called? The Acropolis with earthquakes in mind. So it wouldn't. They've got different sections of those pillars, and in between that they've got rods. So they knew that, or supposedly, this is what I was told by someone when I was looking at the Acropolis over in whatever country it is. I can't remember now, but I did I can't remember what country it's in. Greece, of course. Sorry, my brain went. I did a cruise around different countries, Turkey and stuff like that, and that was one of them. So I went there and went around their museums and stuff. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. We're not doing great for the planet, and also HARP doesn't help as well. If anyone knows who HARP is, they're the ones that, again, secret military, but they can control weather now, so it's not good for us down the line. Soul Eaters wrote, like holographic warp technology that moves consciousness and imagery. That's a cool one. I don't know what that was referring to. Sorry. Pandaras wrote, so many new species are found, so could be Bigfoot ? Therefore not necessarily an alien race. Well, the thing is, we've literally got a guy that reported it to the newspaper that he saw Bigfoot and little greys before we knew about greys, 20 years before the first mention of greys, and probably 25 years, 20 or 30 years before anyone ever knew about Bigfoots. and he saw them together in an alien craft. So unless the little greys decided to fly around, pick up one from America or Russia that's hiding, and say, "Hey, come with us. We'll teach you how to, you know, be one of us and join us and do what we tell you to do." No, I think, and that's just one of many people that have seen Bigfoot and UFOs, and of course, if you believe the people that's been with Bigfoot that say that they are descendants of a crashed ship that had prisoners on it. So I certainly can't see it being a human or anything indigenous to Earth. I really can't. They're intelligent as hell. And if they're telepathic, why, and they've been around long enough, the Native American Indians would, or whatever you want to call them. we over here, we call them Indians. Forgive me if they're Native Americans or whatever. They've seen them hundreds and hundreds of years ago, or thousands, probably 1,000 odd years ago. So I can't imagine, if their birth rate equals, let's just say 9 months, because the Anunnaki did actually, according to their, and I read it out the other day on the video on my Patreon page, 9 months of their cycle on their planet, which is 3,000 years of our time. But if the birth cycle of Bigfoot is 9 months, let's just say hypothetically even 9 months here on Earth, or a couple of years, back in the day, they were more intelligent, they were powerful, stronger. Why haven't we got a whole race of them that took over? They would come and grab the slowest Native American and take him away. They could have killed the whole lot of them, but they didn't. So you've got to ask yourself, why didn't they do that? Because they could have literally took over the whole of America because of the strength and the speed of them, and the intelligence of them. So yeah, I would still say they're alien. Otherwise, they could have, bred like normal animals do, and had, people would have seen them all over the place. I still think they're alien. Drew has wrote, "What did your research discover on something you've never witnessed?" Well, that leads me, excellent question, go number one in class. That leads me to my one point that I was going to say that I've researched recently. Well, I've been researching it for years, but I have come to a fantastic conclusion. There's a guy called Brian Forrester, I think his name is pronounced, and he does fantastic work in the ancient stones, buildings and stone structures. We're talking ancient, the Anunnaki buildings. And he does a fantastic job. And what he's done is he's gone round and he's properly studied the stone, etc., etc. And his conclusions are certain places have heat marks on them, and a destructive force would have been needed to, take off the stones, take off the capstone, etc., etc. So his conclusion, I don't know if you guys know of him, his conclusion, even though he's not said it, is that there was some, well, he has said it actually, but he's not said what the proper part of it was. So his conclusion is that there was some sun, our sun, discharge of some sort, flare or something, that came down, hit Earth, and literally caused a nuclear type effect in, wait for it, Egypt. Now, Where he's wrong, in my opinion, and there's more to this than meets the eye, where he's wrong is where he's pointing out that it's pre-dynasty. In other words, we have our dynasties, as you probably know, but pre-dynasties is Anunnaki stuff. Proper Anunnaki, not just the offsprings of Anunnaki. Now, he says that this nuclear type explosion, now he doesn't use the word nukes, he says this was 10,000 years plus, he reckons, because he says that the dynasties then came along and repurposed or scribbled over the older buildings. However, in his hour-long presentation, he points out certain dynasty statues that also have those burn marks on them, which then negates his 10,000 years, because you can't say it's pre-dynasty, which is what he was saying, if you then have the same marks on dynasty ones, which means it's not 10,000 years. So I will be doing a video on all this. There's even more to it than this, so hold on. So what kind of weapon would have been used? Lo and behold, we all know that the Anunnaki, as they've said, had 7 nuclear type weapons. They didn't use the word nukes, but weapons of what was it? Weapons of terror, I think they call it, weapons of destruction. So we know they've got that because they literally tell us, and we've got green glass found in, as well as many other reasons why in Egypt that there seems to be well, obviously the Bible even talks about it, how the flesh rotted from the eyes, etc. And India, which isn't too far away in the big scheme of things, it's not like England over here. India's actually connected, and Inanna was actually in India. So India also has green glass and proof of some sort of nuclear explosion in the past. Now, was that the sun? No. Was that what the Anunnaki talked about in their tablets? Yes. So where Brian Forrest is saying 10,000 years, I'm saying 3 to 4 still, because it matches the burn marks on the dynasties as opposed to pre-dynasty, and then you shouldn't have any dynasty ones with the burn marks unless you had a second nuclear war. And of course the Anunnaki only talked about proper nukes. They did have other wars 8,000-9,000 years ago, which is when they sunk Atlantis again. I'm the only one that's matched that up, but no one technically no one's debunked me. However, I did block the comments on that video because I needed people to watch the other videos in order to understand more. But the live chat, I had someone the other day actually say, I think you're right about where Atlantis is. Anyway, so Brian Forrest has done some fantastic research, but he may not know about the Anunnaki actually admitting that they've used nuclear weapons and the green glass and the other isotopes and whatever else that's proof of a nuclear explosion in the past. So well done me for ascertaining, using Brian's research, that there was explosions again. Now comes the final clue. Oh, I don't want to say it on here, but I'll give you as much as I can. I have concluded that I was right in the first place about, sorry if I'm dragging it out, I'm being careful how I say it. So, you know the Great Pyramid, Khufu's Pyramid, which isn't Khufu's Pyramid. And there's a sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. And if anyone believes there's a sarcophagus in King's Chamber, I've got some fresh air I can sell you. But it's not a sarcophagus because it wasn't a tomb. It's a granite box with no lid ever found. Now, there are other places where there are granite boxes with lids. Boxes, not tombs. Boxes. And some of these are buried 60 feet underground. In other words, a straight shaft, straight down, I'll be showing a video of all of this. This is really important for you guys to understand if you're interested in this. Shafts that go literally straight down, open up to a smaller area, and then you walk another bit, and then you have to go down another. So 30 foot, another area, 30 foot a landing, then another 30 foot down, and then go along tunnels, really far away tunnel, and eventually you'll come to, again, granite, massive granite boxes, and these ones have lids. Now, I have, and I'll do the video, I have worked out exactly what they're for. I know it may sound stupid, but I was right from when I said something once before, and I've checked into it, and it all makes sense. I mean, it's very logical. Sorry if I'm not going to give you the answer here, because I don't want someone going away and telling Billy Carson my research, because before you know it, he'll be claiming it's his. So I'm very proud of what I've concluded. Please keep watching my videos. Sorry if I'm waffling on, but I am very excited by this. I'm more excited than my Atlantis discovery, because this is, other people have been looking for Atlantis. No one has even been looking for what I've found, and I found it. So, yay me, cup of tea I think I deserve. So keep watching the videos. I will put it out, and hopefully you guys will say, wow, that makes so much sense. You're a genius, as always. Right, okay, moving on. Elim has wrote, I dated a girl. I started, because, thank you, Winnie. There's my tea. Thank you, Winnie. She's giving me tea, bless her. Sorry, the start of that, because I was talking about ancient stuff. I read it as, I dated a girl, and I was waiting for you to say she was 400 years old. In other words, dated as in, carbon dated. Anyway, sorry. I dated a girl that was married. Other than her being married, she was perfect. She was the only girl. Really, you should have, because a lot of aggro, you should have sort of asked her to choose, really. I mean, technically she's married and obviously she's got kids. It's not nice, but if she felt the same way about you, then it's unfair on her husband in the first place. But if she still preferred her husband for whatever reason, just used you for a good time, then that's kind of sad, because she shouldn't really be using you in that way, and you obviously fell for her. So yeah, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Cyril's right. I believe people are cattle and we aren't the top of the food chain. Not according to aliens, no. We are food. Elim's right. Oh, and carried on. And she knew we were not supposed to be together, and said, past life we've always met, but we're both married. I don't believe her at that time until I watched your videos. Well, soulmates. I know people say soulmates are, your loved one, but then technically they're not. They're a group of. I've counted up to 6 from every spiritual medium, etc. that I've gone through. Loads and loads of questions asked to them. So I've worked out there's about 6. There might be more, maybe hundreds, all part of your soul group, but I've calculated 6. And in that soul group, each time round, they could be someone different. So in one, they could be your wife. Another one, you could be their wife. Next one could be daughter. Next one could be a friend, neighbour. Basically, someone close or close enough to interact with you, so that you can both learn, because they're all, those 6 all belong to one, so it's like a drop of water splitting up into 6. They're all connected to one, so it's having a connection between all of them. So that's why. So when you say, she said that in a previous life you was married, or did you say all previous lives? We always met, but were both married. See, I probably wouldn't say always met. Maybe the last one, yes. Doesn't nowhere have I heard it has to be, separate. So in other words, once you was married, the next time round you can't be married again. I've never heard that. And I do look into the research that's done by the Virginia University into past lives, and they've never said that either. But I probably wouldn't say always, because that means your girlfriend would have had to have not only remembered one past life, but gone back multiple. And even top hypnoregression people struggle to go back quite far through different lives. There's some serious training needed to be able to regress someone through the first one, past the first one. So, so you get what I'm saying. It's possible for the last life that you two were together, but yeah. June is right. I hope Minuteman will be brave enough to debate with us, or with you. He's probably studying your videos to debunk. Well, that's a good question. So we was chatting, me and him, back, behind the scenes. So basically, I posted up loads on his videos. Hey, I'd love to debate with you. I'd love to debate with you. I'd love to debate with you. Now, this guy's got 1 million odd followers. On his Patreon page, he gets $2,000 odd a month from his Patreons. And this is a guy that literally, I don't know if you follow him or not, but literally will see someone's video, cut them off as they're talking, and then tell his version of it and do it in a sarcastic-y way. And people seem to enjoy that. The problem is, obviously, he doesn't show the full video of the other person, and the other person hasn't got a chance to rebut that. So I didn't like that, because obviously there's things there that he's talking about that I could point to the proof, and that would be the end of it. So I thought, right, well, I'll see if he's open for a live debate. So I posted loads on his videos, didn't reply. Then I did a video of my own, and luckily some of my followers that follow him had said, hey, Minuteman, or whatever his name is, have a look at this. Why don't you join in and debate with this guy, meaning me? So he then sent me a private. He posted up on one of the videos saying, yeah, sure, no problems, be cool. Then I sent him a private. Because he did that, I then added him on. Now he's got 1 million odd followers on TikTok as well. So I then followed him so I could send him a message, and I said, hey, thanks very much for saying you'd join, do the debate. It's great. What channel do you want to do it on? Do you want to do it in yours? Just general questions. And then he wrote back saying, yo dog, a great idea to do the, because then I also posted up a video saying, I think we should put the live recording on each of our respective channels. In other words, on the Patreons, on the YouTubes, because I don't want him doing a sound bite and nicking something where I go, I believe, and then him saying, well, it's wrong, because obviously whatever I believe, I try and back up where possible, if not using logic, like, the dog neck being broken by Bigfoots. That's logic based, that can't be answered. So I don't want him just going, well, there's no such thing as Bigfoot, and not hearing that logic and being able to hearing his viewers and mine, him answer who goes around breaking the dog's necks. So I said to him, let's put it on our own channels. Now, obviously, if I debunked him, which I probably would, his followers would probably drop off. His Patreon money would go down, and some of those followers will be thinking, freaking hell, Our True History is pretty cool. I'll join him. I'm just guessing that might happen. So I said, let's do a live recording, but make sure that we do it entirety on all of our channels so that all of our people know where we're coming from. So then he wrote, thanks, dog, or something like that. Yeah, it's a great idea to get the full information out there, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, great. So I said, okay, no problem at all. Again, what channel do you want to do? Do you want to do your live on yours? Do you want to do it on mine? And, what time's best for you? I'll try and work around you. And he hasn't replied. And he, as you say, he's probably watched some of my videos. Oh, no, he did. In the dog message, he wrote, it'll be good to chat to someone that's done proper research. So he's probably already watched my videos, realised that it might not be worth getting in a debate and losing his pocket money. 2,000 quid's pretty impressive just from Patreon. So I can understand. I probably wouldn't go up against me if I was debunking people just by cutting their snippets off and then saying what I want to say. I wouldn't go ahead and do that with someone that can point to various things. I just wouldn't do it. So I wouldn't want to lose my million or followers and my money. So I didn't expect him to. So the chances are you probably won't ever see a live debate. So trust me, I tried. But I don't think he's going to come back. Soul Eaters wrote, TikTok can build from AI from the collective to build a narrative. Probably. And then gathering information and normalization. Possibly. Tony's wrote, Sasquatch is real. I'm guessing you've seen Sasquatch or Bigfoot, depending where you're from. Some people call it different names, but yeah. I'd love to know your story. Pandora had sent loads of roses. Thank you very much earlier. Justin's wrote, good day, sir. I'm here for class. Well done, Justin. Hopefully you've heard me talking about certainly the exciting things about the granite boxes. I am just so happy about that. I am over the moon by my logic and stuff. Sorry if I sound like I'm big-headed. It's just, you do this day in, day out, and then when something clicks, I won't go on my own Facebook, but I don't even have my own Facebook page. I've got about 6 Facebooks that's different names and stuff, but I wouldn't, if I had my own Facebook page, just like people say, oh, I've completed a new course or I've done that, how they talk about their own personal triumphs. I wouldn't do that. So that's why you guys are stuck with me waffling on. Winnie's wrote, evening lovelies. I hope everyone is well. What did the doc say, boss? I've got these tablets. I've got to take one in the morning, one at night, and for a week, and hopefully it will clear up. As you can see, it sounds a bit better. I don't know if you heard that. It's still there. Sorry if that sounded a bit gross, but I needed to do that just a bit. 1 second, actually. I just got to... It's really difficult. That's better. I can breathe now. Thank you, Winnie. So, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, and I've got some nose spray as well, which I've got to do later. Junas wrote, that's strange about that message about my dad dying. Had more information. I guess some were deleted. Yes. Yeah, TikTok deletes messages for some reason. I don't know what the code words are, the keywords are that it deletes, but as you know, Jun, I would never... Well, I hadn't even got to them, so I would never block them prior to getting to them, and then I just wouldn't do that. So I apologise that TikTok's done that. So that's why I was a bit confused, but I think we got there in the end. Right, no, okay, June is right. I was talking about my spirit. I was talking about me asking my spirit guide to show me how to make extra money. Right, okay, that's cool. So life insurance on your... Obviously, no one wishes their parents to die. But just look at the small print is all I'd say on the life insurance, because my mum kind of got conned big time on that. But yeah, look at the small print. I mean, I'm, without sounding big-headed, as I seem to do often, I'm very, very good at making money from nothing. I know it sounds stupid, but I could tell you probably 50 things that I've done where I just, I don't even have to use money to start a business or whatever, and I come up with an idea. I think outside the box, and I test it. It costs me nothing, and then bang, I'm off and away I go. So what I'm saying is, it can be done to earn extra money. I do it all the time with different things. Where it's certainly passive income, I'm very good at. Where I make money from things that's already out there and other companies or whatever are dealing with, so I don't have to deal with it. So many things I've done where I didn't need money to start. So just to have my advice would be, you have to open your brain a bit in terms of finding what you need. So I'll give you an example. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I'll give you an example. I needed a particular product, and I couldn't find one here in the UK. And I thought, bingo, I will look elsewhere. Found one, but it wasn't exactly the same product, but it would do perfectly for what I wanted. But it wasn't labelled as what I wanted it for. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. I will buy that and sell that as what I wanted, because there's none in the UK. And I labelled it differently. I ordered boxes, and when they come, I take them out of the boxes and put them in a smaller box, so the postage is cheaper. And bang, got myself a nice little business. Last year on that particular product, I earned about $5,000. Another thing that another idea, I'm just sorry if I'm boring people, but another idea that I come up with years ago, was, you remember the old laptop, Poundland used to do them, laptop fan that would sit under the fan, so it's just a plastic sheet, and it had a USB, and it had a little fan built in, and it was made for laptops. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I market them for PlayStations and Xboxes, because they overheat, and I sold thousands of those for PlayStation, even though they were in Poundland marked up for laptops, I sold them for PlayStation. So what I'm saying is, sometimes, that's just a couple of ideas, but look outside the box. See something and relabel it something different. And if you need help marketing, because that's another skill that I have, I can get things, I can tell you how to get things onto the front page of Google, and, it doesn't even have to be SEO words or SEO words, sorry. Sorry, I waffled on there, but yeah, that's what I do. Jane has wrote, hi, time check 9:12, so I am an hour behind. Forgive me, everybody, this is live. Phoenix wrote, I just got up to 500 videos, I'm guessing, and love your content. Thank you so much. Oh, Phoenix, thank you very much. Or Sam, in brackets, from the UK. Thank you very much. Hopefully you will carry on enjoying them. That's really nice of you to say. That's what keeps me going. Ancient Warriors wrote, and what conclusion did you come up to? So that was I'm guessing the granite box that I was talking about, maybe. I will do a video on that, so at least it's time dated, stamped, etc., so that I can prove that it was my little brain that has worked that out, that no one else has even thought of looking into. So when someone like Billy Carlson says, oh, these granite blocks, boxes were made for, you can always remember that old me come up with the idea first. Phoenix is right. I've seen a UFO in broad daylight and in the 80s, and had no sound and moved fast. Wow. So you're from the UK in the 80s. So my guess is you live more rural than London. Was it a disc-shaped one or triangle? Phoenix was right. My dad saw them too in the 50s as a child in Cornwall. Again, not near London, so that would make sense. yeah, they've been around a long time, haven't they? So for your dad to tell you from the 50s, that's pretty cool. Junas wrote, I was saying I see a bright being during sleep paralysis while sitting down than laying on my bed. Now, I don't know if you've heard me talking about dreams. I did spent some serious time looking into years ago, looking into why people dream. And if you've heard me on my lives before, I said when you sit up sleeping, if and you can go and hopefully listen to one of my podcasts if you don't believe that I've already said this. When you sit up sleeping, you have, you know, the craziest dreams. Now, whether or not that was a dream, a crazy dream that you had, or whether or not because you were sitting up, you was in a state of openness, e.g., allowing your spirit guide or your and the actual entity that may be connected with you already to actually influence your thoughts while sleeping. But yeah, I have said that sitting up seems to be the weirdest one out there for dreaming. So maybe it genuinely it was connect. You was given ideas. Ancient warriors wrote, "Do you think the phoenix existed?" The bird. I'm guessing not the person. 2 comments up or 1 comment up. Yes, it did actually, and it wasn't from Earth. And you goes, what? Beautifully, the Anunnaki talk about the bird. And it's been transcribed into the word phoenix. So there was a creature that would fly and have a. I'm trying to remember now. Give me a sec. So it was. It had a funny lifespan, so it didn't fly off to the sun or anything like that. It had a funny lifespan, and it was important to the Anunnaki. I can't remember where I read it. Again, I've been doing this all for my own research for 40 years. Didn't think I'd ever need to recall it. Yeah, so it's something to do with the Anunnaki and the longevity of the bird. Yeah, I can't remember. Sorry, I really can't remember what it was to do with, but it was important enough for them to write it down. So I can't remember. Forgive me. I'm trying to rattle my brains now. I can't remember. If I come across it again, I will certainly do a video on it. But I can't remember. I'm sorry. But yes, so I do think the phoenix existed, but it wasn't what we believe. Was it the phoenix rises from the ashes, not into the sun? That was Icarus, wasn't it? Sorry, rises from the ashes. Yeah, something to do with his longevity, which would explain again it rising. So maybe it went into hibernation or something. I can't remember. If it raised, I just can't remember. Sorry, I will. If I come across it again, I'll do that. LM has wrote, why does TikTok delete messages? We're not even talking about inappropriate things. I don't know. It is a keywords in there. I've had some of my normal regulars have typed things, and then originally they used to say to me, why are you not reading it out? I read everything out. Except sometimes I don't read other people's where they're chatting to someone, at where it says at Fred. I won't. Sometimes I won't read their messages because they're chatting between each other. But I don't know what the keyword is that TikTok uses to delete the messages. Oh, excuse me. Phoenix has wrote to Ancient Warrior. They have to come from somewhere. Phoenix, the person, has wrote 9:21. So again, just nearly an hour behind. Forgive me, but I still go on people's lives, and I really want to say something. And sometimes I do send a message. Not nasty. I'm not that type of person, but I send a message, and it just gets buried. And then they'll just cherry pick what ones they want to answer. So one day I'll come across someone else similar to me that actually sits there and reads out all the questions. Don't Yeet Me has wrote, your research, any reputable supervolcano or pole shift warnings? Pole shift could be a mud flood. Well, the thing is, the pole shift is an assumption to be true, because obviously no one was around when it first happened. So it's a theory. And it's a fairly good theory simply because, we've got the Sahara was underwater at one point. So we know that somehow the ocean seems to have moved. So that's partly one of the reasons why they believe there's a pole shift that happened in the past. Now, they say that every so often a pole shift happens. They're kind of guessing, really. There's nothing definitive on that. I've never come across anything where they said it's because, X, Y, Z. So for a pole shift, where we spin on our axis, which is what they said, for that to happen a second time, because I know sometimes people say, oh, they've heard that we're going to do it again. Recently, I heard this in the 80s again. When I first started, I was lapping up every bit of information, even though I struggled to read. But the problem with the second pole shift is you kind of would need to know when the previous one was, so we don't even know when that was. And, if it's going to follow it in a pattern, we would need to know the one preceding that to be able to at least give us an idea of when the next, the third one would come along. And of course, we haven't got any dates at all, so we're never going to know if and when a pole shift is going to happen. So whatever someone says, we won't really know, unless it was the Anunnaki, because obviously they tell us stuff that we found out later on. And when you say pole shift mud flood, technically the mud flood happened, 200-300 years ago, and Sahara was still desert back then. So I would probably say no, the pole shift didn't cause the mud flood that happened. And then Jun has wrote to someone else that I've not seen their name before, so maybe they did say something and disappeared. But Jun has wrote to Cowboy, how come mud flood caused people to have amnesia? So I'm guessing Cowboy was there. I wonder if someone blocked Cowboy for saying something. I don't know the answer to that, June. Why everyone suddenly forgot about the mud flood, let alone the advanced race that's an empire that obviously was around, apparently. Don't Yeet Me's wrote, we're electrical beings, I'm guessing you're saying, we're electrical beings driving by bone-powered meat suit, electrical fields are changing? ? I agree with, well, certainly our brain is electrical impulses, and a lot of our muscles are stimulated by the electrical impulses. So technically, you're right. Are they changing? I think this is just my own thoughts during the day. I think that with the Wi-Fi technologies that we're having, and the electric, because people have, being near a phone can obviously cause issues when it's charging. In other words, near your ear, it does cause problems with your brain. And plug sockets at the end of your bed when you sleep, it's a big no-no. If you've got that, move your bed. And there's stories of people out there that's done, been near electrical things and then had issues one way or another. In fact, one person had telekinesis. Genuinely had telekinesis after being guarding this electrical thing behind him day in, day out, and one day went to grab a cup and it freaking moved and so on. But so yeah, with Wi-Fi and all these towers that we've got and everything else, I think our frequencies that we're, our brains used to, will be changing over time. Yeah, I mean, having Wi-Fi literally going through your body day in, day out, and we don't have any long-term data on that because Wi-Fi's really only been around 20 odd years or so. You know, yeah, I think thanks to our technology, we're going to be, our patterns will be changing. Don't Yeet Me's wrote to Eddie. I've not seen Eddie either. I fear our focus of man-made climate change will miss a natural disaster we're warned about. I'd probably, when you say natural disaster, I still worry about HARP. Elim has wrote Tataria was 200 years ago. How does no one remember this? That's $1 million question, isn't it? Because it didn't really happen. But anyway, yeah. So, Anarchy has wrote, just imagine what you could have achieved if you spent 40 years researching something useful. Ha ha ha! That's really funny, Anarchy. Oh, you're a genius. I bet you've got nothing to show for your 40 years. Jane has wrote to Anarchy, please be respectful of our host. Oh, thank you, Jane. Elaine has wrote, yeah, but in geography we were taught that the cycle of water was also a natural filtration system. It should be, yeah, it should be, but obviously with chemicals, so go back before we had chemicals and pollution particles, and we do have pollution. There's no denying a car doesn't pump out something that's not natural, and not just cars, obviously factories and whatever else. I mean, look at London, they used to have smog. So technically it's a filtration system, but when we're capturing the water in reservoirs as opposed to it being cycled through rocks and stuff, streams basically that come down to the end, we're bypassing a lot of that, and we're adding a lot of our own particulates in that same water. So technically, yes, but at the same time, we're overwhelming it, I think, in my opinion. I mean, just look at your cars, like, and also there's stories of sand being sucked up, and dropped down as rain, etc. In other countries, literally in other countries. So rain can certainly, or clouds can certainly pick up small particles if we can pick up sand, because that sand we can actually see, whereas small oil particles and things like that we can't see, that obviously get heated on the sun, on a sunny day, and to possibly turn into some sort of gas that we can't see, because originally we wouldn't have had all of this back dinosaur times and stuff. So yeah, I think we're definitely causing a problem with the water. Tai has wrote agents of provocators. Not sure what that's referring to. Phoenix has gave me another time check. Thank you very much. I'm catching up now. Phoenix has wrote 9:39, so this is live, but I'm behind. Elaine has wrote, water gets up in the air to become rain in the form of condensation almost. Yeah, but I think it comes down with our so the Amazon rainforest, even that I've looked into that, and even that gets, even though you'd think it goes straight up and comes straight back down, and there's no mega structures there that would have been polluting it, etc. Even the rain in the Amazon rainforest, etc., still has pollution in the rain from our cars and planes and everything else. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get around that now. James has wrote, why are we so surprised or not admitting the truths that have been hidden from us? Why are we, so surprised? Why are we 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 so surprised? W there's a lot. I think it's to do with media, isn't it? This is my guess. Is media, TV would say there's no such thing as aliens. The pyramids were built by Egyptians. Uh, Stonehenge was done by cavemen that moved the blocks for miles. Some of the blocks in Egypt are over 1,000 miles away. The quarry, there's certain types of rock there, basalt and stuff, are not native to that area. 1,000 miles with no cars and aeroplanes defies belief. And yeah, I mean, as you say, that alone should surprise, not surprise people when you realise that it wasn't Egyptians, but people don't, they just listen to the mainstream and believe, okay, well, it was a tomb. The pyramid was a tomb because the mainstream say it was a tomb, even though we've got tombs that look totally different from pyramids. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer why people just, I don't know. Three Devonites has wrote, what's your worst encounter you've had with something supernatural? I've touched wood, I've never had a bad one. Did a Ouija board. Thank you for the question though. I did a Ouija board and everything that I believe I got through to my dad with my mum. And I asked questions in my head because I asked originally, could you read my thoughts? And it went to yes. So I asked questions in my head. So it was just me and my mum. The answers were correct. And at that point, I knew there's spirits because if you've listened to me long enough, you know that I'm a very logical person. There's no way I would have accepted my mum, telling me there's ghosts out there and spirits and stuff. So I had to ask myself, and that's what I did. And but nothing scary. That's there are people out there that obviously do Ouija boards, and there's people out there that go into these calling in spirits and stuff. I think that's probably a bad idea, but I haven't had any bad things. Elim has wrote, black goo substance contains DNA, or not sure why TikTok filters some of my questions. Maybe. Okay, so I'm guessing there was a question point in between that, and it blocked out thing. Black goo. Well, interestingly, there's a place in Egypt that on the top of it, so it's hidden. It's in a cave, proper cave. Not cave, but it's in a man-made underground tunnel, etc. And I should do videos on these. And there's actually black substance that no one can tell you what it is. It's like a goo, as you say, similar to that. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about. And it, according to the people that's been in there, it looks like it's been, imagine a paint can suddenly exploding and going up all the ceiling and everything. It looks like that. And so people say that they feel that there was something inside that exploded. Now, inside the same place, there are broken stones, etc., where again the people say there seems to be something that was inside that exploded. And you're almost getting to me talking about the granite boxes here. And there was a granite box inside that same particular area. I have said too much already, but hopefully you now know some of my. That's just a snippet of my where I'm going with this. But I am so excited by it, and I think I'm so right. So no one knows what that black goo is in Egypt, and it's been there since they found the building. The underground structure. Elaine's wrote true about the granite boxes. I've seen one. Oh, brilliant! Yeah, they're polished. They're polished flawlessly, and those boxes are literally cut out of one granite block. Now, some of the other ones that do have lids and proper lids, where they actually they don't just sit on; they have lips. So in other words, a lip that one part of it would go inside the coffin slightly to secure it. So fascinating. But they are actually all carved out of the same granite stone block. So it's not. So they must have cut the blocks, somehow lowered them. Certainly in the place I was talking about earlier, where it's 30 foot down alleyway thing, or whatever you want to call it, hallway, and then another 30 foot down. They would have had to have slid those granite blocks down, weighing, I think it was 80 tons, slid them down a 30-degree vertical thing. It's crazy, but yeah. Certainly the granite box. I'm glad you've seen one. I would love to touch one. I was just about to give you a clue there, about something else, but I can't do it because I want to put the video out. I don't want Billy Carson nicking it. Not saying he would, but there's people out there that will utilize everyone else's research. Phoenix has wrote, are they chambers that regenerate tissue? That's going back to the granite boxes. No. You probably heard me just a minute ago talking about the explosion. So you're probably getting an idea where I'm going with this. Phoenix has wrote, all portals, no. Hippies in the house has said hippie in the house. Andy's wrote, hi hippie, by the way. Andy wrote, acoustic frequency for energy, maybe as the Great Pyramid is built for a bigger purpose. Well, the Great Pyramid was built to have a light beam coming out the top of it, and the granite box. If you ever listened to me before, I talk about the size of the granite box. Oh, you're all spoiling it for me. Those of you who listened to me before know that I've talked about the granite box being the same size, or the inside of the granite box, as a particular well-known box from history. And when I do my video on what I found about the granite boxes, I'll add that as well, because that's all part and parcel of my research. So sorry if I'm waffling on there. Hippies wrote, just came in to say hi and show the love, and may God bless you all. Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you. I mean, you probably know that I don't technically believe in God because it was the Anunnaki, but thank you anyway. That's lovely. Scrolling down, Elim has wrote, yes, I was referring to our souls constantly trying to learn the same experience from what the psychic said, but I thought it was a lie until I learned about souls. Yeah, so you was the person that was talking about soulmates, etc. Yeah, so you spoke to a psychic as well. Yeah, it's especially if you talk to one that you know is telling the truth. If you talk to lying ones, and you're going to get heaven. Always, this is what I do. When I started realizing heaven was space, I started asking, before I paid mediums, I'd ask them, can I just pay you to ask questions? And they said, yeah. First question I asked is there a heaven? And if they say yes, I say, I'm sorry, thank you very much, bye-bye. If they say no, there's only higher and lower frequencies, I say, oh, brilliant, okay. And then I asked a series of bloody questions over and over. So yeah, it's good that you've done that, because you learn a lot from spiritualists and mediums, etc. A hell of a lot. Well, I did anyway. I found, and 99% of it matched with Dolores Cannon. So I really don't hate Dolores. It's just when she comes to talking about aliens and stuff, it's all wrong. Jane has wrote, time check 10:02. Oh my God, is it 10 o'clock? Jeez. Okay, I will be very quick then. Thank you, Jane. I should have put my boy to bed 30 odd minutes ago. Rubens wrote, thoughts on Bob Lazar. 100% genuine guy, 100% genuine about his experiences. Him and John Lear, everything that he said about the size, the shape of these craft, seem to match more modern descriptions, etc., of other people seeing them. So yeah, I'm totally with Bob Lazar. Let alone the Element 115 or 116. I can't remember which one it was. Sorry, my brain's gone now. Lewis is right. Hello, everyone. As the Anunnaki was leaving, do you think they left behind some tech? Only in South Africa or Mesopotamia, where it was flooded with mud and silt and dirt and everything else from the tsunami. I doubt they hunted back, tried to find where it was, dug down, tried to pull it all out. So I think there's still tech, which is why I still think that Saddam Hussein found something in Iraq, which is exactly smack bang where they were. I think he found something, and that's why they went after him. But for the remaining tech that they had, I doubt if they left anything, because they were so against us knowing about advanced tech and their planets and where they come from and stuff like that. I know it sounds weird that they're against where they come from, but of course they just basically wanted us to worship them. So although they wrote it in tablets, not everyone could read tablets back then. So they wanted us to worship them, but they didn't call themselves gods, so they wasn't lying. They just kept it quiet. I mean, technically you could say, well, maybe they didn't keep it quiet. Maybe later on, e.g. Greece times, when they talk about Mars being one of the deities or demigods or gods, places like that where they obviously, the Anunnaki didn't come from Mars, but the point is they could have been sort of hinting at that they come from the stars, maybe. King West has wrote, are aliens real? Absolutely, yes. I mean, the Anunnaki is abundance of proof. I don't know, does anyone else agree with me that the amount of proof that we've got of the Anunnaki, where who the hell would have wrote thousands and thousands of years ago that they want to create a race to carry their baskets and genetically create 6 or 7 that were deformed and eventually get one right? Because where are those? If it was humans, where are these new race? Why not just have slaves, human slaves? Do you know what I mean? If you've got a king and 2 princes, and they want to mine for gold because they didn't forget the atmosphere in Nibiru, but let's just say they wanted to mine for gold because they found it good, or they could use it for money or whatever. To sit there and write, hey, I'm going to create a new race to carry the buckets out, and then manipulate DNA, which obviously we've only just started doing that properly in the big scheme of things. So for them to if they were humans, to then say, okay, all right, there's hundreds of thousands of humans kicking around at the moment, but let's not get them. Let's create a new race to help us and in our image. So you could then say, well, it's in their image, therefore we're all humans, and maybe they did create a new race, but maybe they did create the Homo sapiens sapiens as the new race, you could say, even though the timescale doesn't seem to fit. But that still then leads back to the fact that they had that sort of technology. And no, it wasn't the Tatarian Empire, because that wasn't around till at least 500 years ago compared to 300,000 years ago. So I think with the Anunnaki, and obviously we've got carvings, we've got statues and everything else, I think we've got enough proof that aliens are real. King West has wrote, is Bigfoot put there? He was... Oh, that's nasty. And then King West wrote, answer me, human. That was a bit nasty. So I'll just skip that question now. Don't Jeeters wrote, wifey is doctor. She believes something might have replaced our upper respiratory antibodies. Yeah, I mean, wow, that's good, really good to know. Now there's chemtrails, which I would probably say is to do with that, because you don't spray a fine particle literally all over the globe if you're not doing something, it's going to get into our breathing, whatever it's for, even if it's insecticide. Let's just pretend that they're doing it nice for a good reason and they haven't bothered telling us. They're doing it but if they're not telling us something, they're doing it for a bad reason. So when you've got that amount of chemtrails going up, then people's breathing probably will be affected. Now, whether or not it's designed to affect our breathing, I don't know. But I think, yeah, definitely it will. Oh. Don't, as wrote, making this flu season much worse. Much worse. Go back to the basics: vitamins, sunshine. Stay on top of your sodium, potassium, and magnesium. I can read some things. I don't always struggle. Thank you for saying that, though. It's good information for everyone. King West has wrote, I could have a real convo with him. Not when you say answer me human, that kind of put me off a little bit. And yes, I am human. I am not an Anunnaki. King West has wrote, I know a lot of crazy stuff. Maybe one day we can have a chat. I'm still getting over the answer me human part. I'm a very nice person. I wouldn't do that to someone else or say that to someone else. Justin's wrote, I owned too many of those fans, laugh out loud. I used to have one for my PlayStation. Yeah. But not many. Well, at the time, no one was listing them on eBay as designed for PlayStation when I first did them. And wow, yeah, I mean, sold thousands and thousands of them. There was different types. I mean, I know the PlayStation. Eventually, people started selling the better quality ones because obviously the Poundland ones were really cheap and thin, and the other people selling them would say, these can hold, the weight of da da da, whereas the little cheap plastic ones from Poundland, I couldn't put the weight down because they weren't great, but they would certainly hold a PlayStation. I had them under mine. Don't Yeet just wrote, hope you feel better soon, brother. I'm guessing that's me with my nose. Thank you. I hope. Phoenix wrote, I'm near York area, disc-shaped UFO. Yeah, I thought you would be outside of London. There's hardly any reports, to be honest. I can't think of any proper reports. Now, there's people out there that film UFOs, but, like news reports or anything over London, don't think I've ever come across any. So I guess you would have been further away from London. Disc shape, which I thought it would be as well. So you're lucky to see that. That's a real alien craft there, and that's not an American one. Brian has wrote UAPs, vehicles in the sky or life form. Good question. Certainly the cigar-shaped ones, the pyramidal-shaped ones, the diamond ones, the disc-shaped ones, the saucers. They're all mechanical devices. Now, whether or not some of these are life forms, such as the larger-sized, car-sized or bigger orbs, I don't know the answer to that. Because the smaller orbs are alive. They're the ones that join with us. And then the medium-sized ones are the ones that create the crop circles. They're alive. But the ones outside, up in space, or up in the sky anyway, I don't know the answer to that. So, yeah, good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. It's a good question. June is right. I've been fascinated with UFOs since I was a child, but never seen one. I was, after, yeah, I was just going back to my experience where I was on the roof and laying up and saw a UFO come out of nothing and then turn and go back a different, sort of do a 90-degree turn, or turn and then do a 90-degree off towards a volcano. And my girlfriend saw it too. Kind of underwhelmed. Because I think maybe that happens to a lot of people. I don't know. But when you see something I guess the reason why I was underwhelmed is because I would have liked it to be closer, for it to hovered really, so then I could have, categorically said I'd seen one. But even then, would I have been overwhelmed? Maybe because I'm into this, it wouldn't have overwhelmed me. But I don't know. I would like to have maybe caught it on camera as well. So I know there's people out there like the singer. What's his name? British singer. I can't remember his name. He's had his own channel on UFOs and stuff. You probably know the guy I'm on about. I can't remember his name. When he was 16, he saw a UFO at a bus stop. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning or something. He said, and he said it changed his life. And so since then, he's been, looking into UFO and stuff. To me, I saw it, and that's about it. So yeah. Brian has wrote, yeah, me neither. Brian then wrote, what's your thoughts about the language research on the word Olama interpretation from the Hebrew text? I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, you've got me on that. I don't read Hebrew, so I couldn't tell you what that would have been or anything. Sorry. Elim's wrote, I'm going to sleep sitting up tonight. I hope I'll have crazy dreams. Yeah. Not sure if you want them, but okay. Hippie's back in the house again. Has wrote, that was referring to the protest. That was when I was talking about, I think partly it's manufactured, just like some of the events that's happened in the past. Not going to say the name, but there was an American singer over here in the UK, and she was at an arena, and outside the actual event in the sort of foyer there was an explosion, and that was fake. It really was fake. The person, one of the crisis actors, put up on his video during her a break on the stage. He went out to the foyer and or along the hallways and stuff. I don't know if you guys saw this, and he's filming himself saying, "Where's my daughter? Oh, I've lost my daughter. She's gone." Meaning, he's going to use that video after the actual event happened. But no one was running around. There was a security guard there, and even on the TV in the background, they played certain videos, and that's been checked that video would have only been played, that it was in the background during the break during her show, not at the end, which is when obviously he was pretending to run around, and he was one of the actual crisis actors that was in the photographs of all of them lying there after the explosion. So yeah, that's just one of many reasons why that was set up. You got to ask yourself, what benefit was it? I mean, was there a new law that come out? Because normally they do these things to control us, so they put a new law here and there. Maybe they did do. I just maybe not caught it, but yeah, crisis actors. Don't yeet me is right. Proof of pole shifts is by small bits of iron acting like compass lava flows. We're way overdue. See, that then means you would need to have known how many small bits, as you say, affected it first time round, and no one was here, no one knows. So this is again going back to the assumption, in my opinion, you may feel differently, but if we can't exactly say how the first one was done and when it was done, we can't really say how the next one's going to come along, in my opinion. Don't you just wrote 5:25 p.m. I'm in Florida. Love your brain, brother. Thank you very much. I mean, you may not agree with anything that I say. Again, this is just my ramblings. So don't take anything to heart. If I disagree with anyone, it's not personal. You go and do your own stuff. Do your own research. Tai Was has wrote to Don't Yeet. Yes, loving having this on in the background. Oh, thank you very much. I do have other lives that are on YouTube, etc., that I've done before. So if you, for some reason or other, want to listen to other people's questions and me talking, they're all on YouTube or on my website, which is ourtruehistory.co.uk. Gail has wrote, maybe it's the original foundation before the mud flood. Is that to do with the buildings that were carved into the mud? These buildings are ancient, not more than older than 200 or 300 years. Now, could they have been the foundation? Some of these buildings, by the way, are... my phone's going to die. One sec. Just plugging it in. Some of these buildings that they showed pictures were in Jordan and Middle East, etc. So again, there would have had to have been a mud flood 200, 300 years ago in the Middle East, if you're going to believe the pictures that people have nicked off the internet and pretended that they know what they're talking about. So yeah, Deet has wrote, I'm looking for your top ideas why there's Mercury under the pyramids. Two reasons Mercury can be used. One is, and I did my own research for this, is it can actually strip away ore. So in other words, you can create. It's a way of what's the word? Easy way. It's separating gold from the rock. So that's one reason Mercury is used. And supposedly Mercury, now people have fairly recently come to the conclusion that Mercury can actually create anti-gravity. Now obviously the crafts, the disc-shaped ones, do have a Mercury type substance in it that's super cooled and spins around at a very high speed because of magnets, and that's what gives them the lift. Now there's other types of crafts, the ones that use like the Bob Lazar one, which uses element 116, etc. So Mercury has at least two properties that could be used for ancient aliens, basically. Giles wrote to Don't Yeet. What, really? Never heard of that. And then CJ's wrote, do you believe in the giants and the Nephilim? Yes, I do. Plenty of skeletons found. Unfortunately, they get donated or sold to the Smithsonian, and not just Smithsonian, British Museum, etc., which is owned by the Smithsonian. So is the Baghdad Museum, and so on and so on. So yeah, basically, there were giants. We've got the skeletons for them. The ancient texts talk about them being the offspring of the Anunnaki and humans, which some of them ended up with, in my research estimate, guess that they had gigantism. Some of them did, not all of them, because otherwise they would have all not had any offspring and we wouldn't have any Rh negative blood now. So yeah, that's beside the footprints and everything else that go along. So yes, there were giants, but not like the biblical ones where they were from Athena or whatever the word is. So I'm tired now. Spirits or anything like that. They were just from the Anunnaki, which was an alien race. Phoenix has wrote CJ to CJ. Yes, that's early on in the videos. I'm up to 500 at present. Thank you very much. It's nice when people say that. I love it. Guy always wrote, an explosion of sort. New Grange is 500 older at least. Were the Anunnaki the Tatha D Danann? I've not heard that word before, so I can't answer that. I'll need to look into that and see what that is. Sorry. I don't recall hearing that word. Sorry, you got me on that one. CJ has wrote, why can't heaven be a higher frequency? Basically, when you read the ancient tablets, which we've translated, and I'm talking Sumerian, we've translated the word heaven. So when we've got words like in the Book of Enoch, above the firmament, which is atmosphere, above the atmosphere, we can see stars in heaven, which means we can all see heaven, obviously, because if we can see stars, we can see heaven. Yay, we've done it, we've found heaven, but of course we haven't. And then you get other texts, not just Sumerian, but even the Book of Ezekiel, etc., will tell you that an archangel pilot of Anunnaki comes down, takes them up to heaven, and brings them back down. So when you say frequency, it's not really a frequency. It's, that's just a snippet. There's comets or dragons in heaven, which is a comet. The list just goes on and on and on. And obviously, the Umaralish, the planets in heaven. Of course, planets are not in heaven. So, yeah, there's just too many. It's space. CJ has wrote, why can't the Anunnaki be fallen angels? They are, the Agigi are the younger ones. Translates into watching some. I never can remember it. I did a video, I still can't remember it. It's got me that one. But it basically means watching. Translated, it means watching. So that's the watchers that you know about. And the Agigi came down in tablets, stole human women, predates the Bible, stole human women, and the Bible calls them the sons of God, Elohim, which is fine. That's what their race name was. The sons of God took unto them the daughters of man, human, because they'd already created humans. Now the Agigi came, stole the women, and had kids, and some of those ended up being giants. So they were the fallen angels. Sorry, my nose is just about to... Sorry, it's just about to make me sneeze there. Giles wrote, etching into stone, how about clay or wood or petrified? If you're referring to the Anunnaki, it was clay mostly, for the Sumerian tablets. There was some other types of rock that they've carved into. I'm thinking specifically of the emerald tablets of Thoth, but and then you say, how about clay or wood, and then petrified. Sorry, I say that's. I think I misunderstood what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I went. I can't remember which museum I went to. I went to a museum and it showed a petrified tree. It was crazy. It was like a glass tree. Really, it was really weird. But it was petrified apparently. CJ's wrote, Bob Lazar definitely suspect. He was all over the place in Joe Rogan podcast. When I've watched him and Joe Rogan, he's matched everything that he said back in the 80s. But also, if you don't believe him, answer this one question then, and there's the footage is online. Back in the 80s, Bob Lazar said to John Lear and their wives, come out with me to S4, we'll park up, I'll show you a test flight. I know what time and day, and I know where to park so we don't get caught. Right? They go there, they film each other and a giggle, and then lo and behold, a test flight goes up, anti-gravity craft. Now, if you think Bob Lazar's lying and that added CG back in the 80s, then he's even more of a genius than I think he is. If you think, okay, that's real, why would they both stick their neck on the line and put that video out there if it's not real? It's real. So when you realise that they've done that, which you probably haven't done much research, otherwise you wouldn't have said what you said, when you realise they've done that and actually showed a craft, then everything else you got to say, okay, well, he's clearly, saying stuff. Now, he hasn't even, people over time forget things, but he, when I watched him in the Joe Rogan, I was watching it, and bearing in mind I have listened to Bob Lazar since I could first listen to him. I download or watch or whatever, anything that Bob Lazar says, because this is a guy that worked on a craft. I listen to him. So when you say suspect, I don't see that at all in any shape or form. I don't. Giles Island is the place to look at, really. I don't know whether that's to do with giants or Atlantis that I was talking about. Sorry, I'm behind by an hour or so. CJ's wrote the Anunnaki were fallen angels. Technically, the Agigi were, if you're gonna do it properly, and technically, so because the difference is the names, they're team names. One's Agigi and the other's Anunnaki. And the race name for all of them were Elohim. Giles wrote, they didn't read or write, all knowledge was secretly passed on. I'm guessing that's to do with the Anunnaki. If they didn't read or write, why have we got tablets talking about humans scribing on behalf of Enlil and Enki, etc.? Which means at least one human would have. And at the end of the Lost Book of Enki, it literally says that Enki, after chatting to Enlil, went back to his place and decided to write this whole fantastic story down so that future generations will know the amazing history that we have. So yeah, I would say they weren't all secretly passed down. Juniors wrote, when I found out your name, I thought you were a producer for Stranger Things. I almost died thinking. No, I've not worked on Stranger Things. I've done other things, but not that. If you probably, I'm guessing you're a Patreon who found out my name. If you think it's Mark Thomas, that's just an alias I use. But if you're a Patreon user, you can go and watch my video where I'm in Pinewood Studios, and my name and me is on there in the video. CJ's wrote aliens, angels, two different things. Angels is messengers, which were Anunnaki people. Giles wrote the Shining Ones hated coloured people. If you're referring to the Anunnaki, never ever said that. I've never come across that. They called them black, the ones in Egypt, they called them blackheads, but that's not a derogatory term. That was just a name they used, and they also called us little people. So I've never come across, if that's to do with that, I've never come across them being racist in any way. Yeaters wrote, they were certainly emails strangely released about Saddam Hussein area and Gilgamesh's body found. Yeah, I didn't piece together the time frame, whether that supposed body, but it wasn't Gilgamesh. He's not in stasis. He would have died and buried. Not in that. No, and he would have been more muscular than that for sure, because he was the strongest at the time. He would have been more muscular, and we know that they did have muscles because when you look at the Greeks, the Greek demigods, they all had freaking really well defined muscles, etc. So Gilgamesh was supposed to be the strongest of them all, and the body that we're looking at, bearing in mind there were 6 other kings after Gilgamesh, so it's not like, oh, he's fantastic. So I can't see that body being. So I know people say it's in stasis, but Gilgamesh died. We've got tablets saying he died, and next king came along. They didn't say they put him in stasis. Giles wrote Black Irish, maybe. I'm not really sure about that. Water World has wrote, I'm out and about today. Hope you're feeling better. I am a bit. Thank you very much. I've got to keep taking these tablets. I didn't print out my thing, but I will do. I was really busy today. Martin's wrote, hi Martin, nice of you to join. Brian's wrote, UAP life forms from space, tardigrades. Ah, do you remember thank you, brilliant. Do you remember I said, my regulars, that there's creatures that live in our atmosphere? I think that's the name of them, tardigrades. I think Brian's reminded me. Thank you. Yeah, well done. I couldn't remember the name before. Brilliant, well done. So yes, there is genuinely creatures that live in our atmosphere. You know, higher up. Not sure. Can't remember if it's stratosphere or whatever particular sphere it was in. But yeah, I think there are life forms in space. I think there's life forms that may have evolved into simple organism, even possibly, but I do think there is life forms in space that fly around. Brian has wrote, Olama was interpretation was of God Yahweh. They are looking back and thinking unknown. So this was the Hebrew word you said. What was the translation of? And it says was God Yahweh. So I'm guessing that's a translation. Alama. Yeah, see, the problem is then God, the translation of God was Elohim, which is plural, so it had to have been the Anunnakis, and it's written everywhere, Elohim. That was how I actually got to that conclusion that they were Anunnaki years and years ago, and I could prove that certainly from 2016 I can prove that, but it was way before that. Anyway, and the reason why is because once I realised that the Anunnaki were here, I thought, what's their race name? Can't be those from heaven came to heaven, space. Those from space came to Earth. It can't be that because that's illogical. You can't have a race name. And so I thought, right, did they actually, if they wrote down everything else, did they ever write down their race name? And as I keep reading, it says, the Elohim did this, the Elohim did that. And I'm thinking, that's gods. Gods did this. Hang on a minute. If that's their race name, Elohim, is literally telling us it. The Elohim did this, the Elohim did that. Wow. So that's where my conclusion come from. And then later on, as you may have heard me say, Sitchin, I come across a video of Sitchin saying in an interview that the Anunnaki were Elohim. And so to have him, of all people, verify my own thoughts is amazing. Junas wrote, has anyone ever remembered their past life as another creature or dog or fish in regards to reincarnation? Excellent question. Go number one in the class for that. The Virginia, I'm going by the Virginia University research, which they've really dug down in. It's not just, what did you think last year before you was born? These are proper researching. I never heard them say that, but it's a really good question. They all the ones that they did verify were other people. So maybe dogs and cats are sort of first generation, maybe, or early generation, and the ones that go into us are maybe learned already what they need to know from animals and moved on to us, and eventually move on to aliens, where they're obviously more intelligent than us. So yeah, excellent question. Don't yeet me is right. My name used to be Osiris on here. Ah, okay. I think you used to listen to me, didn't you, before? If it's the same Osiris. Well, welcome back anyway. Brian's wrote, God Yahweh was interpretation, but now meaning unknown beyond makes space more. Sorry, beyond space makes some on the biblical. Trying to see. On the biblical counts, maybe fifth kind. see, as soon as you throw the word in biblical, I sort of freeze up a bit. uh, I guess you could take it that way. Vowers wrote The Truth Is Out There. Outland Sean Connery movie. I've never seen that one actually. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Makes me now want to watch that. Froyo has wrote Giants, Bigfoots are remains of Nephilim. Oh, I hate it when people say it as a matter of fact. You know where I'm going to go with this, everybody. Froyo wrote Giants, Bigfoot, stroke Bigfoot, are remains of Nephilim. Aliens stroke ghosts are fallen angels or demonic familiar spirits. So obviously because it's late, I'm just going to throw out there to Froyo. Okay, no problem at all. If you can give me the proof that giants and Bigfoot are remains of Nephilim, in other words, Nephilim were giants anyway, so giants are the remains of giants. Doesn't seem to fit, but anyway. And the Nephilim were Middle East and the Bigfoots are America and Russia. So if you could explain how they got across, that would be also cool. Aliens and ghosts are fallen angel. Well, then you've literally just said physical beings and spirits are one of the same, fallen angels, which I would not really say that because literally you've got two names for them already, ghosts and aliens, so we've already differentiated the difference between them. But if you think they're one of the same as fallen angels, however, you then wrote or demonic familiar spirits. So in other words, now an alien is a demonic spirit. And when you put aliens, you're referring to the whole of the aliens out there ever. In other words, any species on another planet is an alien species because they're not of Earth. Therefore, they're aliens. Of course, when we travel to another planet and land on another planet, we will then become aliens, and therefore we'll become demonic familiar spirits. You can't have it both ways. You can't say on another planet everyone else is demonic, but when we go to another planet, no, we're fine, we're all right. Because then you could say, well, why ain't some of those thousands and thousands of races of aliens out there, why do they always have to be all demonic? So I think Froyo might. Well, I'll tell you what. The best thing to do, hopefully, if you're still listening, to actually find out who the fallen angels are. If you've listened to me earlier, you'll know it's the Igigi. Literally everything points to it. There's no debate in that now. I think when you look at it, it is. So maybe if you're interested, watch my videos from number 1 onwards, because where you're wrong on this, in my opinion, and logic even is on my side with the aliens and the ghosts of one particular type of creature, it just doesn't make sense. Watch my videos, you might know, you might learn something. No name, sorry if I sound like I'm blocked up, my nose is blocked up again. No name has wrote, do you know Kasra? I don't know what Kasra is. I don't know if that's a person on YouTube or TikTok or a place or something. Never heard of it. Sorry. Greg has wrote, what about the moon? Moon is an actual physical object. I have to say it because some people out there say it's a hologram and plasma and this, that, and the other. Moon, I believe, as per the human release tablet in the British Museum, that it was part of a bigger planet called Tiamat that got smashed into however long back. Excuse me, just about yawn. And is still there now, and aliens have gone along, humans are now there mining on it. So I think it's a real planet. Sorry, not planet, it's a real physical object. Jonas wrote to Liquid fallen angels were Igigis. I've never seen Liquid mention anything, so I'm guessing either they've left or they were blocked. But well done, Jun. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you've done the research, but literally it spells it out word for word. You go to the Bible and it's talking about the fallen angels and the Watchers and everything else. And then you go to the Anunnaki and literally it says the Agigi. The tablets in the British Museum, the Agigi were upset with Marduk getting married, and they didn't have any women, and they literally came down and stole women. So one of them's got to be right, and I know which one especially when the Agigi translates into watching, which is obviously in the Bible was the Watchers. Trigo's ever hear of a guy named Trey Smith? Was that the guy with the mermaid? I name rings a bell. It might be the mermaid guy. I might be wrong. Waz was right. I thought Bob seemed very credible in that interview. Yeah. I think he's a very intelligent guy. He's building his own bloody rocket-powered cars before they got in touch with him, so they needed him for propulsion. And all his credentials did check out, obviously. Juniors wrote back to Liquid Sumerian tablets or watch Ultra History videos. Yeah, I think that Liquid's person's gone. Froyo's wrote, Bob is real. He described exactly what I saw. Yeah, I mean, in the 80s, obviously now we've got a lot more cameras and we can all say, but 80s, to come out with that is, yeah. And Froyo's wrote, I saw 3 UFOs in Arizona. Wow. I couldn't believe what I saw at the time, but after I watched that podcast, I knew there was something more, and I'm a skeptic. Wow. 3. I'm guessing they were in formation, maybe. Not always. Sometimes they're not. But if they're moving, they seem to be in formation. If they're stationary, they might be sort of dotted here, there, and everywhere. Interesting though. Ty Wazers wrote to Froyo, that's great. You got some validation for your experience after listening to the podcast. And then Don't Yeet has wrote, every corrupt king's son rules in place of his father, telling everyone he's still alive. Gilgamesh. Well, I can only go by what was written in the ancient times, and literally Gilgamesh died, and that was the end of him. So I've not come across anyone saying he's alive or anything. That's I mean, you may have, but I've never come across anything. Once he died, he died. Cool has wrote, is there a link to the text from the green tablets? There's different translations of them from different people, so these date back. So the tablets are not around anymore. Chances are they've probably been hidden, but there was definitely something that people would translated. There's Latin translations, there's obviously English translations, and different other countries' translations over the time. When I say other countries, what was it? Assyrian, obviously. We don't know for sure whether it was Egyptian or Sumerian or whatever other language the actual original tablets was written in, really. But there is translation, so just type in. Depends who you want to read their translations of. I read them all because it'd be stupid. I'd have a bias otherwise. I read them all to get a bigger picture, and not everyone has the same translations directly. Sometimes, majority of them are very similar, just the odd word or that here and there. So yeah, just type in the book of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So that you wrote green tablets. Yeah, that's called Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Don't Yeeters wrote, Yahweh might be the Norse mythology for Ymir or Wymer, original giant born out of the primeval void. Could be. Fabio's wrote to call. I think you can Google Emerald Tablets. Yeah. Brian's wrote, Anunnaki order our DNA when they arrive, or as a gift when they left. No, so Anunnaki, there was no humans on this planet at all. We had hominids, different types of hominids, but no humans. Anunnaki were here for 150,000 years, mining, which sounds a hell of a lot to us. Do you know how long it was for them? Half of a year. If they actually genuinely slept like they would on their own planet, half of a year they were mining. It's freaky, isn't it? If they went, slept for 7 nights and stayed up for 7 days, which is just one day for them. If they did that, then it was half of a year's work. Which obviously, normally when we shout out 150,000 years, you're all going, "Wow, that's amazing." That they now, if they went asleep at night and woke up next day, then it would have been 150,000 years. But if they genuinely slept as they would on their home planet, it's only half of a year, 6 months, approximately. So after 6 months, they decided that it was backbreaking work, and that's when Enki said, "Oh, I can create something that will do the work for us." And so he did. Well, technically, if you read the tablet that I read out the other day on my Patreon page, it comes across that his mother kind of gave him the idea, or certainly he was talking to his mother about it, but to me, it read that his mother gave him the idea, but I might be wrong on the way I interpreted it. So yes, they altered our DNA by actually creating us and in their image, using their DNA and Neanderthals' DNA. So that's how we got two missing chromosomes. Don't Yeet has wrote, are the Aztec pyramids similar in writing to the Sumerian text or cuneiform? No, Sumerian texts. There is nothing that's derivative of that at all. Same as the Basque people, which just happen to have Anunnaki bloodline, majority of them, or the largest population of them, should I say. No, Aztecs, nothing like the Sumerians. I will need to double check on the Aztecs to see whether there's a derivative from something to that and from that to something else. I'd need to look into that. I can't remember if I've ever looked into that, but no, Sumerians is a one of a kind. I say that in technically the writing for Egyptian, so you could say, well, they're all one of the same anyway. The writing, when you write in Egyptian, as opposed to the first writings, when I'm talking about the Anunnaki, when they were not more modern ones, they actually wrote in the very similar style and could also be translated into Egyptian from the same style writing. So it was the same, what they called stylus, that they would push into the clay with straight lines, etc. So it was very, very similar to Sumerian, but it wasn't a derivative of Sumerian, if that makes sense. Don't Yeet has wrote to Taratoni, who's now not here. You're on a different planet. Wouldn't you need food and water more than leaving gifts? Froyo's wrote, I'm still listening. I'll do that. Oh, thank you. Dave has wrote, Project Doorway is really interesting. What's the doorway? I'm trying to remember now. Tired. My brain's gone. Sorry. I know it. I'm just getting mixed up with Project Stargate, Project Looking Glass, Project this, Project that. Doorway, what? Yeah, I'm struggling on that one. Sorry. I'm just conscious of the time as well. Sorry. Don't Yeet has wrote top 3 reasons why the lion or jackal head is on the statues represent what? So the Anunnaki said that when someone does a good thing, e.g. Ninurta going after Anzu, they gave him wings and the helmet. We kind of translated into an eagle helmet, but it wasn't an eagle helmet. It was a more than likely it was a phoenix, but it was a bird from their home planet because they obviously brought it with them. Now, their pilot ships, their suit that they wore to pilot the ships. Now, when they first went to the asteroid belt, that was the first time they ever used spaceships. That was the first. That was what they created them for, to go to the asteroid to try and mine for gold. And their description of their suit said that it was. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically it was a suit made for underwater. So they obviously had water on their planet, and it had the same type of helmet. It was a bird's helmet or some type of helmet that actually had a sort of looked like a beak coming out of it, which is really stupid to have it underwater. But you know, the Anunnaki, as smart as they are, do come across stupid in some ways, in my opinion, anyway. So anyway, they had these helmets and they gave wings as gifts. So Hermes probably got some wings for doing something good. Doesn't mean he could fly. They were wings as a symbolic thing. So when you get the wings, if you looked at my other previous videos where Nibiru, there's a two wings and a circle with an Anunnaki in the middle, and that is, according to Sitchin, that is their home planet, Nibiru. Sorry, it's the emblem. It's the emblem for the home planet. So could that have been the wings that they gave them? You know, like a badge. So anyway, going back to the helmet side of things. So yeah, they had helmets with animals on them already. And so when you went to Egypt and Ra Marduk wanted to try and break away from the other Anunnaki, my opinion is that he gave animal heads to the Anunnaki or his offspring. I'm not sure what reason, but that's the way I see it, because there's no other reason why pharaohs would really want jackals and all this kind of stuff. It just, you know, it's a bit stupid to wear a mask for no reason, in my opinion. But if you have a reason, because you know they were seen as, like I say, Ninurta got a mask. They were seen as heroes. Then maybe Marduk decided that, hey, all of his offspring are bloody heroes. Yeah, so in other words, it's a slap to the other Anunnaki saying, Ninurta's got, because him and Ninurta hated each other. So Ninurta's got, you know, a mask because, or whatever you want to call it, helmet, because he done a good thing and killed Anzu, or captured Anzu, should I say, at that point. And, you know, Marduk could have thought, right, all mine are going to be heroes as well then. And that'll be a slap to Ninurta, because, you know, Ninurta's probably proud of his helmet, and then suddenly everyone's got a helmet. It lessens it. I'm just throwing that idea out there as a possible. But I can't see any other reason why. I've never come across why they actually would have had those helmets anyway, other than that. Brian's wrote, Anunnaki, do they live outside of our time and space? No, they're just on another planet. Their planet has a 3,000 year orbit. So when they come to Earth, technically 1 month, 7 days and 7 nights. Or was it 1 month? I'm sorry, I'm tired now. I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up. I need to just double check that. Sorry, but yeah, no, it's just normal time. So 6 months. I'm trying to remember now. So 6 months was 3,600 is a year, and then they're here for 6 months, which is half a month. So it's a month is so one year of their time is one. Sorry, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm messing it all up. Sorry. Phoenix wrote 23, 20. Yeah, I'm trying to get through these as well. Sorry, my brain's gone there. Wheats has wrote, what if the helmet was like the biblical fruit of knowledge? Never come across that. The fruit of knowledge, from my point of view, was when Adam was taken to Eden, as it was pronounced, and that was where obviously some of the Anunnaki tech was, and Enlil didn't like him there for that reason, and also didn't like him with the loincloth. So that was the fruit of knowledge, not a physical apple or anything, because there's no, obviously the Anunnaki had, Enki was Adam's dad, so all this, God created Adam and Eve, it was Elohim created Adam and Eve, or Enki. So literally the Bible's telling us, but some people just don't want to see it. Yeeters wrote, if you knew that a pond was represented by a duck, frog, or tadpole in Aztec language, if you knew that a pond was represented by a duck, I'm waiting for the next bit, just as a shark or stingray whale represented an ocean, don't see why half an animal representing half of a god, obviously using local animals. Yeah, I mean, or demigod, because they weren't true Anunnaki. Because Ptah, which was Marduk, had a human wife, and so did Marduk have a human wife. Duh. I'm not saying duh to you. I'm just saying that, people say, well, why was Ra, why was Ra Marduk? Why was Ra Marduk? As you can see, I'm getting mixed up now. Why was Ra Marduk? And obviously, Marduk was the one that was marrying the human woman, for the Igi to come down and be at the ceremony, but they stole women, and so Marduk was married to a human woman, which was the first. And guess what? Ptah was married to a human woman. That's just one of many reasons. Of course, we've got the tablets that talk about Osiris being the son of Marduk properly in Sumerian. So yes, Marduk was definitely Ra. Froyo's wrote, if anyone interested, when I saw the UFOs, they appeared as 3 spheres of white reflective light. Interesting, because these are the ones I don't know. I've obviously heard and even seen videos of them. I just don't know what they are. I've never heard anyone tell me whether they're, sentient beings or whether they're technology. I just don't know. So you're very lucky to see them. Brian's wrote, get some rest and feel better. So thank you for your live. Thank you. Yeah, I'm catching to the end now. I hate letting people down. Froyo's wrote, they were in a line of 3, straight line of 3. They would either disappear or reappear somewhere else in the sky. I've seen and heard that before as well. Or I would visibly observe them defy laws of physics and move very fast and stop in a dime. Wow. So they were there for some time by the sounds of it. Kind of how you would move your mouse across a computer screen. I tried to work out what I'd seen, and my theory is these craft have vibrational frequencies that bridges the third dimension in time and space. You could be right. I mean, if they're sentient beings as opposed to technology, the bigger orb ones, then yeah, maybe they could quite easily do exactly what you just said. Don't Eaters wrote, the Vikings feared a man that came from the sea. His statue is illustrated as half man. What I'm interested to know what the other half was. Froyo's wrote, where in the 4th can you move in through time like we do in space? It's flipped. I don't know. I've not been in the 4th dimension. So it's possible. The Eater's right. I don't believe the half man represents half god or armoured on the leg and arm. Oh, sorry, I believe the half man represents half god or armoured on the leg or arm. Okay. Professor described it like a Monty Python skit missing the hearth. Interesting. Lewis has wrote, get some rest, boss. Love your lives. I've caught up. Right, okay, I'm going to have to shoot because I should have done a lot of things a long time ago. Thank you, Phoenix, for saying go sleep. Thank you very much, guys. Sorry it's took so long, but look forward to my video about the granite boxes. Sorry, I was just reading Newt's message at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to have to shoot. I've got things to do. Sorry. Thank you, guys. Take care, everybody, and keep watching my videos because some excellent ones are coming out, in my opinion. Thanks. Bye.